hear from the community.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this edition of the Prescott Unified School District Governing Board. We're glad to see so many of you here tonight, and we'd like to welcome you. We do have a number of things to take care of before the item that I think probably most of you are here to participate in. If you have not filled out a request to speak form and you wish to do so and you don't have a form, if you would just raise your hand, one of the ladies will bring you a form. Boy, you're an efficient group. Thank you. I would like to call this meeting of the Prescott Unified School District Governing Board to order. We will begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. Girls, why don't you do this together tonight?
To the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The next item is the approval of the agenda. Could I get a motion for that?
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the agenda as presented. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Thank you. That agenda stands. Next, we have approval of the minutes. Were there any corrections, additions, changes to the minutes? Hearing none, could I get a motion on approving the minutes?
I move that we approve the minutes from the governing board meeting of April 6, 2021 as presented.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the minutes from the regular study and voting session meeting of April 6, 2021 as presented. We will be making a number of presentations then tonight, and we'll start with this one. One of the things that we do at PUSD that I particularly appreciate is that each year we have a student representative on our governing board. It's a non-voting position. Those students apply for that position in the spring and are chosen to serve the following year. This year we've had two such outstanding candidates that we have our representative, Arden Cherry, and our alternate, Emma Tenney. These ladies have really done a great job providing us with insight through this interesting year. They attend not only the board meetings, but they also attend our agenda meetings and our work sessions. So they do put in a fair amount of time on this little project. We would like to recognize both of these graduating seniors from PHS tonight. We'll begin with Arden. In recognition of Arden Cherry for her willingness to serve as the Prescott Unified School District Governing Board Student Representative, you brought perspective to our discussions, intelligent inquiries, insightful suggestions,
respect your discussions, intelligent inquiries, and insightful suggestions. We thank you, Emma, and know that you have a bright future ahead of you. We're proud to know you. Thank you for serving in this capacity.
I just want to say thank you so much for this opportunity to the board and to everyone involved in the community. I'm really thankful for this, and I know it's going to change the rest of my life. So thank you to everybody.
I would like to just echo what Arden has said. We're so thankful to have this opportunity, and also I've really appreciated being able to work with these wonderful people and see how they are working to make my life and the lives of my fellow students better every single day. So thank you.
Thank you, ladies.
Congratulations. Thank you.
If any of you have followed our school board meetings this year, we have been inviting our various schools to invite some of their parents to come and share some things with the board about their school. And tonight, we recognize Discovery Gardens. Stacy.
Hi, thank you for having me. Can you guys hear me with this? Okay. Okay. So Discovery Gardens, not a lot of people know that we exist, but we're taking over campuses. We have students ages 2, 3, 4, and 5. We're at the Washington site and all of the elementary sites right now. So the parent and grandparent that I asked to come today, on the top right, you'll see Miss Stephanie and her daughter Macy. They've been with us for the last 2.5 years. And then on the left, I think they're working on technical difficulties, is Lorianne Frank. And we've had all of her grandchildren. And right now the age range, I think, is from 2 to 10. I think there's 2 over at Taylor Hicks now that have come through our program. Jimmy, I can talk more if I need.
Okay. Ladies, is there anything you'd like to talk to us about with Discovery Gardens before we ask you a couple of questions? All right, I'll give you a hint. Can you give us some examples of things that you have appreciated at your school this year?
Are you talking to us?
Yes. I know you can't see me, so.
Maybe they can hear you.
And it's really hard to hear too. So I'm not sure if you were telling us to talk yet.
Okay, yes, I am. Can you hear me now? Feel like the Verizon commercial.
Yeah, you sound like you're in a tunnel.
Kind of.
But anyway, I guess I'll go first.
All right.
My name is Stephanie Miller, and I don't know if I should I keep going?
Yep.
Yes.
Stacy, would you like to ask
Okay.
questions? Maybe they'll hear you better.
I don't know if I should talk.
Yeah, if that's okay. I know, Lorianne, are you having some technical difficulties?
Is that Stacy?
It's me. So if you don't mind, Stephanie, I was going to have you go second. I know that you're nervous, but I'm going to make you go first because I think Lorianne's working on some things. But if you can tell everybody just some of the things that Macy's done in the program, or some of the things that she's experienced, or even just the things that she likes about Discovery Gardens.
Right now? Say it right now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Sorry, you sound like you're in a tunnel. Okay. Anyways, I am the mom of Macy Smith. Say hi. Hi. She's been going to Discovery Gardens since 2018, and we love it there. She was going to Head Start, and she turned 2, and they basically told me I had to find somewhere else. And I had heard of Discovery Gardens, and I got in touch with Stacy, and she like took me under her wing and guided us and got us in there and got us on some scholarships. And Macy has, like I said, been going there since 2018. She loves it. She has physical therapy there. I don't know if you guys know, but Macy's a little person just like myself. She walked a lot later than most kids do, and everybody at Discovery Gardens has helped her. They've made accommodations for the toilets, the sinks, the water, the faucets, her chair, and I cannot tell you enough how much I appreciate everybody at Discovery Gardens. I love Stacy. She is a Wonder Woman. She makes things happen. Macy has met lots of friends, and like I said, I can't thank Discovery Gardens enough for helping me, getting Macy in. And Macy went from a walker to she walks. I mean, she's 5, but she walks now with no support. We are getting her ready for kindergarten. She's going to go to kindergarten in August. We had a walkthrough by a judge last week, and they're going to make accommodations for her. And I just appreciate everything and helping me get Macy to succeed. And now she's 5 and going to kindergarten. Say hi. Stand up.
Hi.
Say hi.
Hi.
Can you tell them about Discovery Gardens? About your teachers? You can't see anybody. Just tell them how much you love Discovery Gardens.
A lot.
A lot. Stand up. Say one thing about Discovery Gardens.
I already did.
No, to the computer. How much they have helped you go potty on the potty by yourself, and the step stools, and how much you love your teachers.
And my friends.
Yeah, tell them. You said you would.
You.
I'm shocked she's like this. She's the social butterfly of Discovery Gardens. She will tell you where everybody is. She plays walkie-talkies at home. She'll say, how many children do you have? Or someone's getting ready to go, what do you call it, pick up, family pickup?
Yeah.
Tell them.
You.
You guys can hear me, right?
Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry. But again, I don't know what life would be like without Discovery Gardens. They help me sometimes put her in the car. They have gone the extra mile a million times. They go over and beyond every day for her, for my family. And I am very grateful for that day that I did come in contact with Stacy Williams.
Thank you, Stephanie.
Thank you for having us. Stacy said, wait, bye.
Hi.
Gloria?
Bye.
Well, good evening, everyone. I apologize for the technical difficulties. It's been a while since I've done a Zoom meeting. I had hoped to have all 4 of the most beautiful small children in all of Prescott, I'm sure, but they were not available to sit beside me tonight. I have been very blessed to be a part of Discovery Gardens since my oldest grandson, who is soon to be a 5th grader, has been in Prescott. I cannot, like Miss Stephanie, say enough good things about Discovery Gardens. They just don't teach children. They just don't provide therapy. They love the children, and it is clearly evident. When your little one says goodbye to their teacher and they run and go get a last-minute hug, probably at least 4 times before you can finally exit the room. If it had not been for Discovery Gardens by himself. So thanks to Discovery Gardens and Bonnie Brashear for training that particular child. All of my grandchildren are extremely verbal, and I truly credit Discovery Gardens for laying that foundation for each and every single one of them. If there is a bright shining star, one of the bright shining stars in PUSD, it is Discovery Gardens. They love our children, they teach them, they guide them, and they have fun with them. It has been nothing but a blessing to me to have my grandchildren attend Discovery Gardens and be a part of PUSD, period.
Ladies, I'd also like you to tell us if there are any things you might suggest that would improve the school or that you would appreciate that are not there now.
Oh, since I have been a part of Discovery Gardens, I have to be truthful. I really can't think of anything that I would want to change. I truly cannot. This is the finest preschool setting that I have ever been associated with in any fashion. And I recognize there's always room for improvement. That goes without saying. But from my perspective and what has been a part of my grandchildren's lives while they were at Discovery Gardens, I just can't think of anything. It is it's a shining beacon in the district.
Thank you, Gloria. How about you, Stephanie?
Can you repeat the question?
I can try. Is there anything you can tell us that we might improve or change at Discovery Gardens that would make it better?
Make COVID go away and have a preschool graduation. Field trips, maybe, but again, that's probably because of COVID. Really, nothing. Again, they're amazing people, they're amazing teachers, there's an amazing staff. I really can't think. I mean, like I said, if I have troubles getting her out of a car, and Stacy, if you're there, I have to drive Matt's truck in like a week. I might need some assistance. I don't think there is. They are literally like from A to Z with Macy. They want Macy to succeed at Abaya Judd. They are bringing some of her stuff over from Discovery Gardens to Abaya Judd. Macy is going to, I don't know what the word is, be lost without Discovery Gardens the first week of Abaya Judd in August. She's been going there every day. She goes there from 7:30, right when they open, and I pick her up at like 3:30-ish every day. I don't really think there's much to change because it's so wonderful.
Thank you. We really appreciate you ladies taking your time tonight to share with us.
Thank you for having
Stacy.
us.
Any other
Thanks.
questions?
Do you have things you'd like to say?
No, they covered it all.
Okay.
I just wanted to really commend Stacy and the preschool teachers. During virtual learning, unfortunately, our tuition students weren't able to come to school, but our preschool teachers put together activities and put those online for any preschool family to use, free of charge. They use their expertise to put together lessons and activities because they wanted those kiddos to keep learning while they were at home. And I really appreciate the extra work that your staff put in for that. Thank you, Stacy.
All right, the next item on our agenda is recognition of our high school ambassadors. Marty?
My pleasure to introduce this item. Annie Reifsnyder, who is the Director of Training and Members for Arizona Serve of Prescott College. She works with us on our AmeriCorps service members, which we'll hear more about later tonight. But when she came to us and said, I have an opportunity for your high school students where not only can they earn elective credit at the high school, they can earn Prescott College credit, they can get a tuition for college later, they can learn a career of how to be a teacher and some of those skills. And so essentially this program, our high school students sign up and they help teachers in the classroom and learn all about teaching. And the first year she came to us, we were able to recruit 2 high school members, and it was such a success. Last year we expanded it and opened it up, and I think we had 6 or 7 this year. And Annie, they are finishing up their term, and Annie Reifsnyder is here to present their cords and a certificate to these students who helped us in the classroom.
Hello. Okay. Yes, we have 6 amazing student ambassadors this year with Prescott Unified School District. We have 3 amazing folks here that we're going to give some graduation cords and certificates to. We had over 1,200 hours served this year by our student ambassadors in the elementary and middle schools, and they impacted over 200 students. And in lieu of me kind of going on and on about them and bragging about them, I wanted them to introduce themselves quickly, where their names, where they did their service, and then also just a memorable experience that they had this year. So I'll give it away.
My name is Malia Resnick. I served at Granite Mountain, and my favorite memory is painting benches for the Community Nature Center.
I'm Danner Cousins. I served at Taylor Hicks Elementary School. I think my favorite memory that I always remember is like whenever I go into the classroom, all the kids will come up and give me a hug and love on me every single day. And then there's one kid, and every day she comes up to me, she's like, Miss Dander, every day. It's so hilarious. And then just like the last week, the kids realized it was the wrong name. They're like, her name is Miss Danner, but I thought it was super cute.
Hi, my name is Jacob Mole. I helped out with Gem Environmental, and I also helped out a lot with the Garden Champions. And one of my experiences was working at the Granite Mountain School Garden and helping out with the garden club. And the kids just looked so enthusiastic, and it was fun working with them.
So we are presenting 4 college credits from Prescott College, as well as a $1,342 education award that can be used anywhere they continue their education. And all 3 of these and all 6 of our ambassadors are going on to even bigger and better things. So thank you so much.
I have to also say, we have a secret mission of hopefully getting them excited about becoming teachers, because we want them to come back to Prescott and we're going to recruit them. We'll see if that happens. Thank you. It's so nice to meet you in person. There you go. Thank you. Good to see you out there. The neighbors that are pretty good.
Our next presentation will be from the Prescott Unified School District Education Foundation.
Thank you, everyone, for the opportunity to be here to speak tonight. My name is Jenna James. I am board president for the PUSD Education Foundation, and I'd also like to introduce you to Paul Kirchgraber, our executive director. He's going to take over at the end of the presentation. As we do each year, we want to give you a year in review of the Education Foundation, but I know we have some new board members who haven't heard our previous presentation. So Sarah, if you would go, oh, I have the clicker, right?
Yeah, just point it right there. There you go.
Oh, too far, sorry. To let everyone know what it is we do. So our vision is that every student will have a fully funded and innovative education to ensure stronger character and long-term success. So we really exist to bridge the gap between what the state provides in funding and what parents, students, and our community believes a PUSD education should look like. So we provide those services, funding for those services. Our mission statement is that we are the catalyst that ignites the power of community, connects generous hearts with the needs of our teachers and students, and elevates the long-term success of every child every day. We have a new executive director. Paul Kirchgraber joined our team in January. He comes to us with 28 years as a fundraising professional, 10 years with the Yavapai College Foundation, and helped add more than $10 million to their endowment over his time at Yavapai College. So we're thrilled that Paul is with us and that he sees what the foundation does and our potential for growth and the potential for the impact we can make within PUSD. Our main fundraiser went virtual this year, like so many other things. Sip and Savor is our annual fundraiser. This year, our donations totaled over $33,000. We had 15 homes throughout Prescott that participated in the event, and we had a live auction that happened concurrently at all the different homes. We also recently, just a couple of weeks ago, hosted the Excellence in Education event, the luncheon for teachers and staff. When the county discontinued its Teacher of the Year banquet, we were very quickly asked by some of the previous sponsors if we would still be honoring Prescott teachers. And we knew that that is part of our mission as the Education Foundation, to honor their excellence. We have previously supported the district's Teacher of Excellence recognition each year, but instead of choosing one teacher from each of the 7 school sites this year, we felt it was important to honor the hard work and dedication of each and every educator and staff member this year who have gone above and beyond what they have been asked to do in the classroom. They have sacrificed time with their own families to take care of our families, and they have had to rethink everything that they knew about classroom engagement, classroom management, individualized instruction, all of that. And so we wanted to recognize their hard work, so we provided them all with lunch, and as well we had a city proclamation declaring April 23rd as PUSD Excellence in Education Day. Yesterday evening, we recognized 7 students at our annual Rising Stars banquet and acknowledged 6 distinguished educators that they had chosen as the educator who had made the most impact on their educational career. Those students are students who are going on to amazing things, and those teachers helped them discover what they wanted to do after high school. And we also honored Terry Pemberton, PUSD teacher who has been with the district for 50 years. So we honored his incredible service and the 17,000 plus students' lives that he has touched in our community. We also did some technology support this year. Normally, we do teacher grants every fall, but we knew that this year there was a possibility, number one, that teachers wouldn't be in the classroom to use what they had requested, and that there were some immediate needs of the district that we could serve. Over the past 6 years, since 2016, we have given out 37 grants totaling over $120,000 directly into classroom programs and materials. This year, instead of teacher grants, we purchased 150 internet hotspots that were gifted to the district to allow students who were going to be enrolling in prep to have internet access all year long, to allow students who were in distance learning at the beginning of the school year to have that internet access, and also to have it while they were in hybrid as well. So that gift totaled over $36,000. One of the items that was on our presentation last year was we announced that we were going to be starting a campaign to get Stop the Bleed trauma kits in every classroom district-wide. District staff participated in a training where they were all trained to use these kits. However, the training doesn't do any good if we don't have the materials for the teachers and the staff at their disposal in the event of an emergency. So with generous support from community members, our board, the Perry and Sandy Massey Foundation, Jewish Community Foundation, and the Harold James Family Trust, before the school year started back to in-person school, we were able to put a kit in every single classroom and office district-wide. I'm going to turn it over to Paul.
Okay. President Dillon, Superintendent Howard, thank you very much. Board, I'm really excited to be here and to be working with this foundation. I get to do the last two slides, and this one I'm particularly excited about because I think it's the one program that has, for me, made the most amazing impact on teachers, and that is the Teacher's Closet. For those of you who don't know about that, Teacher's Closet is a program of the foundation, and it has the ability to provide teachers with materials for the classrooms at no charge. And the Teacher's Closet has been started, I think, 4 to 5 years ago. And I have my hats off to Marty Reed. I've got to thank you, Marty. Marty took a phone call from Desert Financial Credit Union, and the credit union asked, "What do you need? What does the school need?" And Marty and Gene Robertson gave a menu list of things that really were required. Desert Financial selected the Teacher's Closet, and we were in receipt of 14 boxes of school supplies from Amazon and a $7,000 check to purchase those supplies to replenish the Teacher's Closet. So Marty, I want to thank you very much for being a great fundraiser, okay? As Jenna mentioned, the organization has been in existence for 6 years, and really it's amazing to see how far the foundation has come. We're going to be moving the foundation to another level, and we're planning for the future right now. In order to do that, we've conducted a fundraising audit to take an internal look at what our capacities are, what things are missing in terms of how we move the organization forward, and we'll begin working at our July retreat. We're also engaged in a program to start to bring alumni, Prescott High School alumni, back and re-engage them with the school district. In partnership with the school district, we are looking forward to creating opportunities to get alumni involved in things that are going on in the school. We started a Facebook group for Prescott High School alumni. You guys, make sure you join it, okay? Already we have 2,300 members in this group, and it's been less than 9 months. It tells you exactly what kind of allegiance and feeling alums have for this high school. So this is great. We did an Arizona Gives Day test run to see how that would play in terms of our fundraising. We raised over $10,000 in one day for Arizona Gives in support of teachers. This was so successful, we're going to rerun it in 21 and take it further. An emphasis on fundraising with corporations and foundations. And in the fall of this year, we're going to pilot a crowdfunding program which is going to allow teachers and students to create small fundraising projects for their classroom, and we'll do that in support with a foundation. We've got some exciting things coming up, and we're really glad to be able to do this. Can I answer, or Jen, answer any questions from this auspicious group?
Anyone on the board have questions? I would just like to tell you, Jenna and Paul, how much we appreciate all that you're doing for the PUSD system. It makes a huge difference for our students.
Thank you very much. We appreciate it.
Our next presentation is from our AmeriCorps VISTA representative, Monique LaFlamme. Yes. Marty will introduce her.
I'd like to introduce Monique. Monique is an AmeriCorps VISTA that came to us last summer, right in the middle of the pandemic. And Monique was asked to serve as our attendance success coordinator. However, as you will hear from Monique's presentation, it is a very complicated topic. Her goal was to help improve attendance of some of our students. We know attendance and success at school are related. Of course, attendance during the pandemic looked a lot different than a typical year. So we've now changed, Monique has recommended we change the title to Student Success Coordinator because it's more than attendance, it's about overall success for the student and figuring out those barriers. And so Monique is ending her year service with us, and she's going to give us a summary of her work this year.
Yes, thank you, and thank you for having me. So as Marty mentioned, my name is Monique LaFlamme, and I am the AmeriCorps VISTA serving at PUSD as the Attendance Success Coordinator. But as Marty also mentioned, we have shifted that to the Student Success Coordinator position just to be more encompassing of everything that has happened this year and just all of the challenges that many, many families have been faced this year. So first, a little bit about who we are. As a team, I collaborate very closely with Jim Gandy and Cindy Foss, who come from a very extensive background and are currently working with a local nonprofit. They have been really great in challenging me and other staff to think about the larger picture and how to build positive, lasting connections with our families. We started this year by really diving into what every child every day means in the face of a pandemic. After sorting through all the various challenges being faced by the PUSD students and families, we decided that there was a larger issue at hand as opposed to the singular issue of attendance. That said, we established this team to create best practices for not only attendance but also academics with the lens of creating environments of belonging, inclusion, and respect. So the main issue that PUSD has been facing long before the pandemic is that of high rates of chronic absenteeism. Simply put, this is when a student misses 10% or more of their enrolled school days, which can be as simple as missing just 2 days of school each month. This also affects students in terms of not reading at grade level in early grades, such as 3rd grade, failing middle school classes, and also dropping out of high school. So there is a lot of different secondhand effects that happen to a student's education. As I mentioned, This is not a problem that's unique to PUSD, but it is important to mention where we stand on a national average. Nationally, there are 1 in 6 students who are chronically absent, which puts it at 18% chronic absenteeism. And in Arizona, that number increases to 1 in 5 or 20% chronic absent students. And in Prescott, during non-COVID times, it has been 1 in 4, which is 25% chronic absenteeism, which as you can see is quite high. And then during the pandemic, that has actually increased to about 1 in 3 students, which is 30% or more chronic absence. And as listed on my screen, the attendance goal is to be at 10% chronically or fewer chronically absent students. So as I've said, this is quite a large problem. There are also many different contributing factors to chronic absenteeism, and speaking specifically to PUSD in itself, we saw major barriers of technology. Thankfully, PUSD was able to deliver hotspots and Chromebooks to some of our families, but this continued to be a problem for many families throughout the year. We also saw a lot of students struggling academically and failing some of their courses, which is also a huge factor of the social emotional learning. We sent out surveys to some of our students this year, and a lot of the feedback we got back was just a lack of motivation and lack of desire to do their schoolwork. So that's also a huge factor of not coming to school. And we also have a factor of high mobility rates, where students are moving in and out of different schools, which is a huge factor as well, just because it's tough to kind of start a new school, and moving in and out frequently is not helpful as well. So some of the components of success that are needed for this project, it's imperative that we maintain our efforts of relationship building on this project, as it is the foundation of sustaining the project itself. This can be done through messaging campaigns and information awareness through newsletters or other mediums. We also need to maintain intervention strategies early for those in the earlier grades to help catch them before they fall through the cracks and go unnoticed. Lastly, we need the community's support and cooperation as we make this a continual collaborative effort, as this will be an ongoing challenge that will linger within the coming school year. So, despite COVID-19 throwing us a bunch of curveballs, we were able to pull out some successes from this project. I don't have to tell everyone the vast impact that COVID has had on the education practices, and to say that it's been a battle is an understatement. However, at the start of the year, my team and I were able to train and recruit 10 volunteers to this project. Each of them were assigned to one of the 5 schools that we work with and assigned a call list of students who were missing large chunks of the school year within the first 4 months of school. We were able to maintain this list and catch issues families were facing as they were happening, while also connecting them to proper staff at the schools and keeping the parents up to date with current information from their school. I was also able to help out with COVID-19 contact tracing in the later half of the year, where we were ensuring that PUSD and the families as well were adhering to the CDC guidelines and protocols. We additionally engaged in a huge messaging campaign for both our families and district staff. We participated in a few Facebook awareness posts about attendance, where we were able to engage directly with the families online. We also created monthly newsletters highlighting attendance, academic, and enrollment trends of that month. We sent out surveys to over 200 students and parents to hear from them directly and understand their needs. This helped us recenter our project to understand what was actually needed versus what we thought was needed. We also established a webpage on the PUSD website where we showcase a little bit about who we are and share some resources of how to combat chronic absenteeism. Finally, we are ending this year by sending postcards to a select group of 3 students, totaling to 800 students, to either congratulate or acknowledge their attendance patterns for the year. Additionally, we consistently tracked patterns of chronic absenteeism, those failing 3 or more classes, and the enrollment trends of the district. And last but not least, we kept up our partnerships with local organizations such as RAP and Perry, which helped us engage in positive messaging and connections. So the next 2 slides are a little snapshots of the work that we have been able to do. And on the left is one of, I think, my most favorite thing that we've been able to accomplish this year. We have worked really closely with Cheryl Blossel, who is the Power School guru of the district, as well as Jim Gandy, who is our data enthusiast, and we were able to create 6 new alert tiles that can be used and seen on Power School. The purple tile up top is the academic support needed tile. This tile will show which classes and how many a student is failing. The intent here is to show both parents, students, district staff, teachers, just that there is a little bit of extra support needed in those certain subjects. The next 3 are our chronically absent alert tiles, and these are directly calculated through the Power School dashboard, and they are coordinated, according to the dashboard. So the red is when a student is chronically absent 20% or more. The orange is when they are chronically absent 15 to 19%, and yellow is 10 to 14%. The data, like I said, is pulled directly from the dashboard and is calculated year to date. This is also visible to everyone who can access Power School. The last 2 are our in-school suspensions and out-of-school suspensions alert tiles. These appear on a student's page if they have received an ISS or OSS for that current semester. With the intent of the program capturing kids' hearts, these students may need extra support and attention to build stronger relationships with their school. These alerts are only visible to the administration, attendance clerks, and the student success team. The best feature of these alert tiles is that they can be pulled into a report list, so a teacher can pull a list of students and run a report on any of these tiles and then see which students fall into which of these categories. To the right is a small screenshot of the web page that we were able to create and publish on the Prescott Unified School District website, which, as I said, just showcases who we are and some resources. The upper right-hand corner of this slide is a snapshot of our messaging campaign posted to the PUSD Facebook page to engage families and let them know that attendance still counts during this crazy time. In the bottom left-hand corner is another screenshot of the raw data trends that we track and report to district staff monthly. These are then transferred into graphs and presented to the district leadership team monthly in a newsletter format. The remaining 2 are 2 out of the 3 cards that we are sending off to over 600 students at the end of the month. After talking to principals, it came to our attention that there is a group of students who have had perfect attendance, if not 99% attendance, and we decided that they deserve to be recognized for their efforts, as that is an immense accomplishment for this year. Our other group is ones who were chronically absent 20% or more for the entire year, but have showed up every single day in the 4th quarter, which is also a huge accomplishment in itself. Our last group is those who have been chronically absent 20% or more for the entire school year, and the intent with these cards is to show them that they are supported and that we want them back next year no matter what happened within this past year, and just to make sure that they know that everything's okay and we want them back. So looking forward to the next school year, the 2021-2022 school year, I am ending my service in June, but it's really exciting because we have another AmeriCorps VISTA, Martha, who will be joining us in onboarding. So that's something to look forward to. And then we are also going to determine our incoming student watch list of those who are chronically absent during the summer. That way we can get a head start and start strong in the fall. We are also our entire goal of next year is to establish and create attendance plans that can be used across the district and just create really best practices and intervention practices for chronically absent students. We are also hoping to revamp and recruit more volunteers to our project, as well as garner some more community support. And we are also, of course, going to continue our early intervention practices, like I mentioned, so starting in the fall. And then last but not least, the overarching goal of next year is to continue our building relationships with our currently chronically absent students and as well as our teachers and district staff. So with that, I want to say thank you and a special shout out to Marty Reed and Cindy and Jim, who have been a huge, huge support with this entire project, and thank you.
Thank you, Monique. We appreciate your work.
Are there any questions from the board?
How many years have we had this program from VISTA?
So this is actually the second year. So the first year was last year, and obviously once COVID hit, it kind of came to a halt. There are still things happening, but I came in June, and then the third year will be next year.
Okay, so we don't have any data to say that, like, how you've helped yet,
Not
just because of the pandemic.
Yeah, we have a lot of data on just the trends of the year in itself and how we compare to last year, but in terms of before that, not much.
And is yours a volunteer position?
Yes, this is through AmeriCorps, and Annie Reifsnyder, she was the one that presented. She was in charge of the program for us.
Okay.
Yep.
Any other questions or comments?
What has been maybe your highlight in your time?
It has been a crazy year, but honestly, it's just I've felt so supported by everyone at PUSD. They've been absolutely incredible. And I think my highlight is just getting to work with so many different people, with the superintendents, assistant superintendents, the principals, and just really getting to work with the district leadership team has been incredible.
What would you say going forward would be some key community components that should be brought into this to help with attendance and student success?
So our big goal is to really just get the word out there that this is a problem. I think before I got here, I didn't really understand what chronic absenteeism is, but it's a lot more common than people know, and it's also a huge problem. So just being aware of the numbers and how many kids and which kids and specifics, and just really getting that community support to support that, whether that's through mentorships, tutoring, or anything along those lines, it's going to be key for this project.
I would like to add that the tiles that Monique talked about on Power School, so that when a teacher pulls up a kiddo and that tile is so visible, that has been amazing in that awareness. And you know, you would have to dig as a teacher to really understand how absent a student in your class is. But that tile right there is an alert, and it lets you know maybe I should touch bases with this student and say, hey, is there anything I can do to help you get to school? Or I noticed you've been absent, here's some makeup work. It's just that nice little quick reminder. I've gotten a lot of positive feedback, Monique, on those tiles. So thank you for bringing that to us.
Thank you. Yeah, those tiles have been amazing. Just like you said, it's so easily accessible now. All the information was there in Power School, but now it's right there when you click on the student's page. So yes, thank you.
Yeah. We're going to miss you.
And if I could just add, you know, in every school, you know, there are capacity issues around the amount of work that it takes to dig in and help these kids. And I remember being an assistant principal being overwhelmed with that piece of how do we help these kids. But what AmeriCorps does, what AmeriCorps VISTA does, is they come in and they build sustainable programs that are going to be able to last and leverage your capacity. And this is another great example. We've seen it happen maybe close to a dozen times now in PUSD, including our volunteer program that is vibrant with around 800 volunteers. And so that partnership has just leveraged so many things for us. And now our administration will be able to move forward with the support of the team that's already in place. And so just thanks so much for putting that all into place, Monique.
Of course. Thank you.
Thank you, Monique.
Yes.
Moving on, the next item on our agenda is current events. Do you have any?
Just a quick couple in the interest of time and the big agenda. I'll be brief, but there's some big things going on like always in PUSD. We had a great prom last week. We are on track for graduation on May 28th on Bill Shepard Field as the sun sets over Thumb Butte, and so we're looking forward to that as always. Also, an interesting topic, on May 14th, we'll have our first round of interviews for Prescott High School principal. We have some excellent candidates from across the country and hope to bring a final decision to the board by June 1st at that June 1st meeting. So that's exciting, and also bittersweet. We've got Mark Goligoski right down here if you want to give him a hard time before you head out of here. You have my permission.
All right. Anybody on the board have anything you'd like to share?
Just briefly, again, I'll add, so in Prescott Little League, we have a challenger baseball team that's specifically for kids with special needs. And I get the honor of coaching that team. And in the last 2 weeks, we played a game against the Prescott High School varsity baseball team, as well as the Prescott High School varsity softball team. And we won both of them, by the way. We win every game. But I will say every year I just contact Coach Winslow and Coach Randall, and without hesitation, they always say yes. They love playing our team, and it just is a testimony to our district, our schools, but we have some great coaches, and the kids that are on our sports teams are just amazing and wonderful to our players on our team. And so shout out to Prescott High School for that.
Anything else? I would also just like to remind people that each of the building liaisons are attending the site council meetings. We had one last week at Granite Mountain. We have, I think, 4 this week and 1 the week after. So if you're interested in attending the site council meetings at your school, the board members will be at those. Anything else? Ladies? Okay. Next is the consent agenda. Are there any items on the consent agenda on which any of you have questions or comments? The only thing I would mention is under donations. We appreciate all the donations that come in, the fantastic donations we get from the Education Foundation, everything from $5 to thousands of dollars we always appreciate. But I did like to point out that we had a couple of items this month where donations were going to support our social emotional programs. We received $5,000 from Dignity Health and $18,000 from the Harold James Family Trust. So thank you to those organizations as well. We truly appreciate your support. Could I get a motion for the consent agenda?
I'll make a motion that we accept the consent agenda as presented.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded that we accept the consent agenda as presented. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. All right. This is going to sound a little odd, but this is a point at which we would have had a public hearing on our maintenance and operations budget. No one has requested to speak on that particular topic, and so we will not adjourn for a public meeting, a public hearing on that particular item. So moving on to our study and voting items, number 1, consider approving the revisions to the 2021-2022 budget limits for the maintenance and operations and capital budgets as presented. We have gone over this budget already, but if you have further questions or anything on this, please let us know. Otherwise, is there a motion?
Just wanted to ask one question. We are keeping all the certified staff from the same numbers from this year going into next year?
Yeah, in March when you voted on the budget package, it was staying status quo. This budget revision, just for the new governing board members and audience, it's finalizing this year. When we do the adopted and proposed budget in June and in July, since we're in current year funding, we are making an estimate on how many students we're going to have for the upcoming year, and we're funded on the first 100 days. The 100th day was in January, and so we're required by May 15th to do a budget revision to reflect the accurate numbers. And so this is the budget revision that completes this year. And then in October, the annual financial report of actual expenditures will come to the board for a vote. But this is not reflective of any decreased staffing or anything to that extent.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions on that budget? Could I get a motion to approve?
I'll motion that we can approve the revisions to the 2021-2022 budget limits for the maintenance and operation and capital budgets as presented.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the revisions to the 2021-2022 budget limits for the maintenance and operations and capital budgets as presented. Okay, thank you for your patience. We're finally to the point where I think most of you are here. Oh, we forgot to vote. Oh, gosh. Sorry, guys. I'm so anxious. All right. All those in favor of the motion to approve the budget, raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Thank you, John. All right. Moving on. I would also like to remind any of you, if you wish to speak to the motion on mask wearing, if you have not completed a request to speak, please raise your hand and we will see that you get a copy of that form. Anybody? Okay. I'm going to make this motion and accept a second in order to follow the standard procedure for motions and so on. Discussion generally occurs following the motion. This does not mean we're going to skip your comment and not listen before we vote. So I move that we reinstate PUSD's original policy on cloth face coverings, masks, in light of recent COVID spread and in conjunction with recommendations of the CDC. Can I get a second on that motion?
I'll second.
All right. So now we will open for discussion. This is the way this process will work. We have the request to speak forms in the order that we received them, and that is the order that we will call you up. When we get started here, I will tell who is up to speak next, and then list the next two people so that those people can prepare to come up. There are two microphones at the front of the auditorium. Please go to one of those microphones that's most convenient to you. In order to give everyone an opportunity to speak, we have a 2-minute limit on your comments. We have a little item here. Green light means keep talking. Yellow means you have 15 seconds left. And red means your time is up. It also, when it gets to red, it beeps, so you don't have to stand there and watch the lights the whole time. We do ask you to honor that time limit so that everyone who wishes to has time to speak. We thank you in advance for your respectfulness, both to the board but also to your fellow speakers. The board member and administration, per district policy, will not respond to the speakers as you are speaking. As we get to our discussion later, we may bring back some of your points, but we will not respond to you while you are speaking. In the consideration of time, please stay on topic and try not to repeat things that have been said by others. So, I think we're ready to begin. Kathy? Our first speaker will be Sarah Murphy. She will be followed by Tommy and Jess Savoini, and I apologize about mispronounced names. And they will be followed by Bonnie Sanderford. So Sarah? And if those of you who are coming up next can kind of be moving toward the microphones so that we can keep moving as quickly as possible. I would also ask you please not to touch the microphones. They've been calibrated and we don't want to screw it up. So, Sarah.
Can you hear me? Hello? Hello? Test?
Is
that on?
No.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
I am here today to speak on the possible mask mandate being reinstated and to encourage you to keep the choice with the families where it should be, and to ask the board to not operate and make decisions out of their own fear. Children by and large are not carriers of COVID-19. New studies continue to reinforce these findings. When doing a side-by-side comparison of the flu, the CDC states on their site that the risk and complications in a healthy child is actually higher with the seasonal flu than with COVID-19. Yet with the seasonal flu, our children are not required to wear masks or social distance. This morning, 41.3% of the Arizona population has already received 1 dose of the vaccine. All teachers, PUSD employees, and members of our community that are most at risk have had the opportunity to receive a vaccine. So who are we trying to protect with the mask policy? The psychological damage of wearing masks for our children on a virus that's 99.98% survival rate. Children learn empathy, compassion, and love through facial expression. This is something that's been missing. My kindergartner, on the first day back of school without masks, came to me and said, "Mom, I can see people's smiles." As cute as it was also devastating to see that they have not had that emotional connection with their teachers or their peers all school year. They are much happier now. For those families that are concerned about COVID, they still have the option of wearing a mask or utilizing the PrEP program. So why take away the choice of the families when everybody could have an option? I was shocked when I received the email last week. When I looked at the numbers, it occurred to me that 0.00334% of the PUSD student population had COVID. 0.0034% if you do the math of the total number of students and the 12 students that tested positive. So please, I'm asking you, maintain the choice to wear the masks with the families.
Thank you.
Hi, guys. Thanks for having me.
Mr. Tommy?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
I know that you're going to hear a lot of statistics and stuff from people tonight, and I don't have any of that. I didn't really prepare for that. So I just basically wanted to talk about the politics of fear and how it's being instilled in our children and how it damages them emotionally, mentally, and how I really think that really outweighs the good that the mask does. I worry about our children and the lesson that it teaches them to fear everything, I guess, so to say, to make it very simple. And I'm really worried about that. I see it in my children, and I really do think that the bad in the mask outweighs the good, and that's really all I have to say. So thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Bonnie Sanderford, followed by Pat Shaw and Ellen Radovich.
Hi there. I just want to speak a little bit to, I know there's people have said that there's kids are upset with wearing masks, and I just want to say that my children were very excited to go back to school after spring break, and they were so excited to be with all their friends, and everything was going fabulously. The mask mandate was removed. Not 10 days later, 200 kids almost are quarantined. One of them is my 8th grader. He's not free when he's quarantined at home. So all this talk about freedom and being free to wear the mask doesn't really make any sense to me. My kindergartner, my child who's in 1st grade this year, missed his kindergarten at the end of the school year last year. He missed all of the fun stuff they do at the end of the year, and I do not want him to miss the end of the year this year, where the only option we have now if we leave the masks off is to continue rolling quarantines and many, many kids being out of school, disrupting the teachers, disrupting the day. I want my children in school. If wearing a mask makes that possible, my children are perfectly happy to do that. They are compassionately wearing the mask to protect their friends and neighbors and the other people in the community. I just think that nobody loves to wear the mask. If we have 17 days left, we can get to the end, we can all do it together. Everybody can be at school, everybody can enjoy it, everybody can appreciate all the things that we have going on. It doesn't need to be a one versus the other. It's just about doing it as a community to protect everyone that we can and get everybody, as many kids at school as possible, so that we are all enjoying everything that the school has to offer. I appreciate everything you guys have done. I know I do not envy the position you are in. I can't imagine the barrage of calls and emails you get daily. We appreciate you. I want my kids at school. If wearing a mask makes that possible, I want to do that.
Thank you. Next speaker is Pat Shaw, followed by Ellen Radovich and Jennifer Jacobson.
My husband and I have lived in Prescott since 1973. Our children graduated from the Prescott Unified School District. It was a family town. Everybody supported all the public schools here. The children got a great education. That was mostly in part to the dedicated teachers we have and staff, and we still have dedicated teachers and staff. I'm very thankful to be part of my grandchildren's lives. I have seen how important it is that they are back in school and with the other children. Masks and vaccinations have made that possible. I believe we are still a community that cares about children and the health and safety of those who teach them. Let's not be so selfish that we cause some children and some teachers to have to be quarantined due to our own personal preferences. Masks can make all the difference in every child being able to finish what's left of the school year in school instead of at home. I think that's a worthy goal for our caring community.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Ellen Radovich, followed by Jennifer Jacobson and Clarissa Smith.
Hi, Ellen Radovich. I am here to support the current policy of masks being recommended but not required. I saw that it had come back to play when there was in the paper I read, a spike in COVID numbers, and so I was not aware of any spike, so I looked it up. I went to your dashboard, and I saw out of, 3,586 students and staff, there were 12 active cases, which is 0.33%. So then I went further to the Yavapai County website, and I saw that as of yesterday, there was one new case in Prescott, just one. So right now, we have the choice. We can get vaccinated or not. This entire room, everybody has the option to get vaccinated or not. We can wear masks or not. And we can keep going like that. There's no need to start taking away our desire to go to school how we want. Us parents can decide for our children what they should wear to school and what they don't need to wear to school. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Jennifer Jacobson, followed by Clarissa Smith and Cindy Tobin.
Good evening, members of the board, Chairperson Dillon, and Superintendent Howard. My name is Jenny Jacobson, and I have 2 children in the school district. I want to first thank you all for your hard work this past year. I appreciate your thoughtful decision-making and frequent communication with families. I would like to share 3 things with you. 1, the CDC's evidence on the efficacy of cloth face coverings is very clear. 2, if you doubt this, please look to India. They held several religious and political super spreader events, and now they're paying the price. 3, the variant spreading through India is already in the United States. It is more harmful to younger people than previous variants. Last week, I did as Superintendent Howard advised. I continued to send my 2 children to school with masks. Yet my youngest was still sent home to quarantine. A classmate who sat near her contracted COVID. My daughter spent 2 days at home with very little work to do. Her classmates, the ones who weren't quarantining, were taking AZ Merit. That means when my daughter goes back to school, she'll miss even more in-person instruction while she makes up AZ Merit. My question for you all is, how much in-person learning will our children miss because cloth face coverings have become so politicized? Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Clarissa Smith, followed by Cindy Tobin and Maddie Smith.
Hi, I'm Dr. Clarissa Smith. I'm a local pediatrician with sufficient expertise and knowledge in the facts of this subject. Compelling data now demonstrates that community mask wearing is an effective intervention to reduce the spread of COVID-19. I wish to address the board with this scientific data. The act of speaking generates oral fluid droplets that vary in size. COVID spreads primarily through respiratory droplets and aerosols when infected people breathe, talk, cough, sneeze, or sing. These can harbor infections, particles, and spread disease. In conditions with poor ventilation, typically indoor enclosed spaces where an infected person is present for an extended period of time, the concentration of these droplets and particles can accumulate sufficiently to transmit infection. In fact, the virus has been shown to remain airborne for many hours in closed indoor space such as classrooms. Community mask wearing substantially reduces transmission of COVID-19 in 2 ways. First, masks prevent infected persons from exposing others to COVID-19 by blocking virus-containing droplets into the air. This is especially important because it's estimated that 50% and up to 80% of transmissions are from infected persons who never develop symptoms or in the pre-symptomatic phase of COVID-19. Children make up the majority of these cases. Second, masks protect uninfected wearers. Masks form a barrier from respiratory droplets that could land on exposed mucous membranes. They partially filter out small droplets and particles from inhaled air. In recent studies, multi-layer cloths were definitively effective, blocking as much as 50 to 70% of exhaled small droplets and particles. Using evidence-based science and facts to make our decisions is imperative. We know that wearing face masks is one of the easiest and most effective preventative measures people can take to protect themselves and others from becoming infected with the virus. There is strong evidence and effectiveness of widespread use of face masks in reducing COVID-19. I would be happy to provide more data or information as needed. I know the board has had to make very difficult and multifaceted decisions, but ultimately I feel it is everyone's goal to keep the community safe and our children in school.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Cindy Tobin, followed by Maddie Smith and Anthony Pacheco.
Hello. My speech is a lot more emotional and not so much numbers. I'm tired. I'm really, really tired of all of this, of the politics, of the divisiveness, of the anger, of the disrespect. I am so tired of family feuds and relationships and friendships being broken by all of this. I'm tired of closures and quarantines, and I'm tired of the distance we have to keep from each other. This is real. We are all tired of COVID. We are all in this together, like it or not. My son's home quarantined right now, and thank God. He has diabetes and he tested negative. No, he's not one of the numbers that has COVID, but he's one of the 180 that are home missing school right now. And I don't want him to miss the rest of the school year, and neither does he. COVID is real, and it's everywhere. It's here, and it doesn't have a timeline. Has anyone polled any of the kids? Because I have. I've asked several of the kids that my children go to school with, if given the choice to wear a mask for 17 more days, if they can finish school with their friends, would they do that? Or would they prefer to stay home and finish online alone and separate? every single one of them made the choice to want to go to school wearing a mask for 17 days. If they're willing to do that, then what's the problem? History will see us, and history will judge us. And I think it would be a wonderful thing if we could show the next generation and the next generation that we did everything we could, and we worked together to make a difference and to get rid of this virus. 17 days, that's all I'm asking.
Thank you. Maddie Smith, followed by Anthony Pacheco and Thomas Gann.
Good evening. My name is Maddie Smith. I'm a Prescott native. I'm a PHS graduate. I currently have a middle school enrolled in PUSD and an elementary student, as well as a preschooler enrolled to start in August. I'm also a former PUSD employee. I'm a firm supporter of public education, and I hold a master's degree in elementary education. For the past year, our family has struggled like everyone else in dealing with the challenges brought by COVID. I know we have 17 days left, but I'm looking forward to the fall of 2021 and the 2022 school year. When the district sent out surveys, I completed them and eagerly anticipated my children being allowed to return to in-person school. Throughout the months of distance learning, like many parents, I watched my children's mental and emotional well-being deteriorate as they sat glued to a screen all day. I was thrilled when in-person learning resumed, and I was grateful for the option of continued distance learning through prep for students and families that were more at risk or more worried about COVID. And on that note, I do want to pause and say thank you to all the educators and administrators. I can't imagine this year has been awful for all of us, and I truly appreciate all that you do for our kids, and please know that it doesn't go unnoticed. Our family has followed protocols and done what was asked of us for a year, even though it wasn't always the choice that my family wanted. Earlier this year, when that option of choice was taken away yet again and distance learning was mandated, I realized that I had made a mistake in not speaking up vocally for what my children needed, that my survey answers had not been enough, and that I needed to do what was right for my children and our family, and I unenrolled my children from PUSD. I don't want to repeat the same mistake of not publicly advocating for my children, and that's why I'm here today. I don't plan to argue the efficacy of masking our students or lack thereof, although I did find it interesting that in the week prior to the mask mandate being lifted, a stomach bug ran rampant through my daughter's school, even though everyone was masked. I do, however, feel that your decision today will set the tone for the 21-22 school year, and if our right to choose what is best for our own children and families is once again taken away, it leaves me for no options for my children in PUSD. I know that we're just one family, but I felt that it was my duty to stand here and allow my voice to be heard as a voice for my children, and on behalf of them, I ask you to please not reinstate the mask mandate.
Thank you. Next speaker is Anthony Pacheco, followed by Thomas Gann and Nikki Brenner-Pacheco.
Hello, Board. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for all of the people that have dedicated their lives to helping our children. I'm a father of 4 here, and we recently moved here about a year ago. And one of the things that has brought me to Prescott is the small town feel of which I grew up in a small town in Texas, and just really enjoyed exactly that atmosphere here in Prescott, Arizona. My concern isn't so much with all of the emotion that's getting pushed around. My concern is more about how we're framing the situation whenever it comes out to our public. And so I'm going to speak a little bit about the email that was sent out that caused alarm and confusion. And I would just hope that the board would take note of the communication that does come out and the way it stirs up our community. And so I'm going to offer a slight alternative to the recent April 20th. So on April 20th, health choice was given back to individuals on a mask mandate was lifted from PUSD staff and students. Since this day, we have only had 12 COVID cases out of 386 students and 1 school and staff with 1 transmission at Taylor Hicks, 1 school transmission at Granite Mountain. All the other cases came from outside the school. and we were all able to maintain a zero transmission in 5 out of 7 schools. Mile High had the most with 4 cases of all the PUSDs, and they were able to manage 0 transmissions within the school. Based on the CDC guidelines, PUSD quarantined 180 children for 10 days in response to the 12 COVID cases. Only 2 of those students ended up contracting COVID. We're hopeful that all the board members will look at this presented from the health and safety coordinator carefully, discerning and framing and doing the best to investigate the numbers and statistics and data that has been supplied. The school has approached all the other data in this way, and we trust that you will continue to do so. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Next speaker is Thomas Gann, followed by Nikki Brenner-Pacheco and Michael Carlson.
I'm actually not here to advocate for or against masks. You guys are going to make your own decisions. There's good points on both sides. My question for you guys is, what are you going to do when it fails? Because it doesn't matter what you guys do, whether you wear masks or whether you don't wear masks, the cases are not going away. COVID's never going to go away. 17 days is 17 days, but it's going to be here next year, and you guys have to create a long-term plan for what you guys are going to do when it doesn't go away. Diseases stick around. RSV is still here. Measles are still here. Polio even shows up from time to time. So COVID's never going to go away. Whether we wear masks for the next 17 days, next year it's going to be here. You're still going to have cases, and you're still going to be discussing this issue and having 2 sides of these people coming in and saying, wear masks and don't wear masks. So my point here is, please create a long-term plan for your decision and just understand it's never going to go away.
Thank you. Next speaker is Nikki Brenner-Pacheco, followed by Michael Carlson and Hillary Cannizzaro.
So in the last small town, our name was mispronounced, and then it just went through the whole town. So I just want to go on record and say it's Pacheco.
Pacheco, thank you.
Yes, you're welcome.
It looked like an E there, sorry.
No, that's totally fine.
I appreciate the correction.
Yeah. I want to first begin by thanking each of you for serving our children and our community and taking the time to listen to us and to consider all the available information. I'm a mother of 4 children and Anthony Pacheco's wife, and 2 of our children are in PUSD, and as he said, we just moved here a year ago. When I state that I am for health choice, I immediately get labeled as selfish, and I am told that I do not care about others, and that I am ignoring teachers, hospital workers, elderly, and the most vulnerable in our community. This leaves little room for civil discourse and quickly discounts anything I have to say after that. So I will begin my statement by saying that I am a teacher and a coach. I take care of my elderly veteran father who has COPD and heart failure. My mother has diabetes. My best friend has MS, a bleeding disorder, and is a nurse. I hope this will lay any thoughts down that I do not care about some of the most important people in my life. I wrote an email to the board today, and I brought you each a copy along with key documents to support my claims. I only brought 7 because I didn't realize how many board members there were, but I can make sure and give it to you. I'd like to offer some highlights of the facts for you to consider. It was stated at the last board meeting that PUSD's COVID cases tick up and down, that's a quote, but remain in the low and moderate range of transmission, and the schools were doing well. We're still in the same ranges, and we are ticking up, which historically happens with or without mask choice. The data proves it. There's a couple other points that others have made, so I'm not going to make them. We know that antibodies from COVID infection can last over 6 months, and according to the CDC, cases of reinfection of COVID-19 have been reported but are rare. The highest infected school, Mile High, did not have a single in-school transmission during their reported 4 cases. At least 3 of the 12 COVID cases were within the same family or sibling group. PUSD did not change health policy previously when there was 1 possible school transmission within a PUSD school.
Mrs. Pacheco, can you finish up, please?
Yeah, sorry. I know I spent some of my time
That's okay.
correcting my name.
Thank you.
You guys have it in an email, and I'll...
All right, thanks. The next speaker is Michael Carlson, followed by Hillary Canizaro and Darren Mall, sorry.
Good evening, Board. Thank you for listening to us parents. It's something I had asked in conversation with Mr. Howard back in August. I think it's important to have a dialogue with the public. At this point, the gentleman that had spoke previously, a couple people before I did, had my point, and that is, what is the plan going forward? I had asked Mr. Howard for a plan in August. The board had since last March to come up with a solid plan that addressed exactly, you are going to have people that are going to want masks for their kids forever. You're going to have some that want virtual learning forever. You're going to have parents that want their kids to go to school normally as they did before forever. What is the plan? What's the plan for next year? You guys had a de facto fallback of CDC guidelines, of getting in the weeds with everything. We live in Prescott. It doesn't matter what happens anywhere else. The only numbers that need to be looked at are in Prescott. As a father with 2 daughters that go to PUSD, I ask you to give the liberty and the freedom of being a parent, speaking with my children about what they are comfortable with, to go to school without masks. They're healthy. They are happier. My understanding is you all are probably vaccinated. You're in masks. The teachers are vaccinated. They're in masks. The vaccine is supposed to prevent transmission, and everyone's vaccinated and everyone's in masks. Doesn't make any sense. I implore you to come up with something next year to address the issues, and for the next 17 days, let kids wear masks that want to, let the kids that don't. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker is Hillary Canizaro, followed by Darren Mall and John Krahulik. I'm sorry, John, if I mispronounced that. Hillary.
Well, you did well with Canizaro. Hi, I'm Hillary. I am a teacher at Discovery Gardens, and I am a mom of 2 kids here in the district. My oldest is a freshman at the high school, and he is a type 1 diabetic. Now, the medical and scientific communities are still studying the long-term effects of COVID-19 on diabetics, but what they do know is that the recovery time is longer and harsher, and that the risk of permanent organ damage is much, much higher for diabetics. And so what I know is that my son already has a pancreas that doesn't work. He doesn't need more internal damage. So people ask me, why don't you just keep him home? But my son struggles academically. He is on a 504 plan. He has an amazing, dedicated team at the high school who helps him achieve his goals every day. And so why should I have to tell my son, who all of his team agrees needs the accountability of being at school, why should I have to tell him that he has to stay home when he's been wearing a mask everywhere he goes, and believe me, he has not gone many places, for over a year just because other students will not wear theirs? That does not seem right to me. Okay, I don't know what other people teach their children. And I know that some people teach their children that they wear a mask because a tyrannical government forces them to. But I teach my children that wearing a mask is something that you do because it is a very simple and thoughtful thing that you can do to take care of the members of your community. Because in my eyes, loving your neighbor is not just something that you say, it is something that you do. So I hope that the board can please consider reinstating the mandate. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker is Darren Mall, followed by John, and I'll get that name when you come up, John, and Jill Martin.
Yeah, I'm Darren Mall. I don't know if this gives any more credibility or sway, but obviously you guys got to make your decision, but I am a father of many children, and I would have 7 in the school district right now. But because of the chaos of mask wearing, our kids are not in school right now. That's like probably the main reason, right? I could deal with distance learning and all that stuff, but kids don't need masks on. That's our family's opinion. So we have 7 kids that are not in the school district. So I want to agree with someone saying that we're setting the tone for next year. And I believe that's a big factor, because my kids going to school here or not next year, and because right now we're homeschooling them, or homeschooling through a charter. So they will not be going to the school district next year if we're wearing masks. I'm just saying that as part of your, you can make the decision now, you know, they can wear masks for the next 17 days or whatever. It doesn't bother me. My kids aren't there. But for next year, if this kind of stuff is going on, it's not good. These kids need to be kids. They need to see smiles. Someone told me a first grader came home after the masks were taken off. Said, I finally met the kids in my class. Really? Like, her mom was just shocked. And you know, they're smiling, and we can talk to each other and know each other. But like here, you got a bunch of people. To me, it's just faceless. Right now, I'm looking at everybody in my society. I live a happy-go-lucky life. I know there's all these things about this and that and whatnot going on, but let's not put kids in masks. It's not a good idea. Let's go forward and have. So I'm asking not to reinstate it, but it doesn't really matter this next 17 days. But for next year, be very clear on what you're going to do and make it a policy for the whole year, not bouncing back and forth, up and down all year. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, John, would you pronounce your last name for me? It's really small type here, and I can't see it very well.
You had it exactly right, John Krahulik.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And listen, just to start, I'd like to commend the school district for reopening earlier in the year, and also for Governor Ducey lifting the mask mandate statewide. I'm excited for the Prescott community. We're downtown over the weekend. Things are vibrant. It's springtime here. There's a lot to look forward to. I think as a community in PUSD, we must move beyond this mask mandate. I'm not opposed to masks. We've learned a lot over the last year about the effectiveness of masks. We understand who the high-risk groups are, and by all means, if you're in a high-risk group or those around you are, or you yourself are, by all means, wear a mask. I think this is an opportunity to ingrain personal responsibility with our children. Educate them, make smart decisions. The negative consequences of mask mandates and mask wearing are real. It impedes socialization and learning. There's a speaker, Ms. LaFlamme earlier, talked about attendance and so forth. We know of kids who have stopped going to school because of Zoom, because of mask mandates, and I think it's playing out in the numbers that were shared with you earlier from your speaker. Our son, relatively new to the area, had difficulty connecting with children. The expressions, the connectivity through the eyes helps. Without masks, his ability to connect with other kids accelerated meaningfully. I'm aware of no study done to evaluate the negative impacts of these masks. It's been going on for a year. No study's been presented. Lastly, life worth living involves calculated risks. Everybody's here today. You drove here tonight. There were some risks in making such a decision. Children are not at high risk. Most of them are not. The teachers, that I understand it, are protected. Kids recover from COVID quickly. From what I've read, masks actually do little to prevent the spread. Depends what mask you use, how it's worn. And I guess lastly, the effectiveness and this entire quarantine policy, I think ought to be revisited. You've got kids home, in my mind, for pretty dubious reasons. That's all I've got to say tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Jill Martin. I have a child at the high school, and I just have 3 reasons which kind of are have kind of been said, but just for me is that I want to have the right as a parent. I know my home, I know my child, I know my risk. I don't have a problem with anyone else wearing a mask, but I know what we don't have any elderly people at home. We've already had COVID. We're not sick. We manage our health. We're not afraid of COVID. And we all had it and no one caught it, even our employee who works with us and my elderly parents, I was with them. So, you know, I've had personal experience with this. So I want to be able to choose this for my child. I have a child who is very willing to wear a mask. I don't want him to wear a mask. I tell him, don't wear it, you know, until you get out of the car or whatever, because I don't want him to wear a mask. But he's been very willing. And just out of the blue this morning, as I was driving him to high school, he said, Mom, actually, I'm really glad I don't have to wear a mask right now, because he actually has struggled with depression, which is the second point. He's been suicidal and depressed, and it's been very difficult time for him this year with online learning. He's a freshman. He was looking forward to just solving all of his issues by being able to be in-person school and having a great freshman year. So so that's the second thing, is the stress on our kids, and it's real. I mean, I know parents can relate to having their kids home and be dealing with trying to motivate them to do their online learning. And my last point is that our kids are really smart and they have access to a lot of data and media and information. They look at the numbers. My son's like, why do I need to be afraid of something that is this curable and this solvable? Why are people afraid? So he literally doesn't understand, even though he's willing to do the social things. So thank you, and I'll be praying for you guys to make this decision, and I hope you'll keep no masks until the end of the school year, please. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, the next speaker is Paul Braithwaite, followed by Jennifer Wavra and Jenna James.
Good evening, and thank you for allowing me to speak tonight. I prepared some remarks, but I've really changed a lot of the things that I'd like to say, and I just want to empathize with everybody on both sides of this, because a lot of good issues have come up tonight, and the thing I think that we all agree on is that we're all worried about our kids. We're all worried about our kids. We all want our kids to be in school. And the other thing that we all agree in is that our Arizona classrooms are all way too crowded, which doesn't help when there's a pandemic. I do want to encourage you to have us wear masks for the rest of this year. But I also agree that there needs to be a long-term plan. We don't know when COVID goes away. I'm hopeful that it'll go away when we get more people vaccinated and things like that happen. By the way, I'm a physician. I'm an anesthesiologist. I trained in the military. I've been practicing here for 11 years. I've seen the ravages of COVID in our community, in the hospital here. I've taken care of several people that didn't make it with COVID, and that's an awful, awful thing. Something to think about. I've heard it said that masks are dangerous. They spread disease. They lower our oxygen levels. I've worn a mask every day for 21 years in the operating room. I haven't seen epidemics of gingivitis like I've heard have been reported. I've seen neurosurgeons do complicated surgeries. As far as I know, they're not impaired while they're doing it because their oxygen levels are low, and they've been fine. So I don't think masks are dangerous. The social issues, yes, I think there is something to be concerned about. But I will tell you, 21 years I've worked with a great group of people in the operating room. We wear masks every day. We're great friends. It can be done. Maybe it's a little harder for kids, but it can be done. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Jennifer, followed by Jenna James and James Nachel.
Good evening, Board. My name is Dr. Jennifer Wara. I'm a family physician. I want to say thank you for the work that you're doing here on behalf of the school and the entire Prescott community. I unequivocally support the reinstatement of mask mandates on PUSD campuses as a proven mitigation strategy in the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic. This is the current guideline from the American Academy of Pediatrics and the CDC. Arizona is now entering its third wave of this deadly pandemic. As a nation, we have mourned the loss of nearly 580,000 people. In Arizona alone, over 17,000 people have died. 865,000 people have been infected, many of them with lasting debility that the other physician and I continue to see. 29 children in the state have died. One is too many. If you've ever had to tell a parent that their child has died, you want to prevent that. I see firsthand the devastation that this pandemic has brought to our communities. Now, with successful vaccine options in place for adults, the pandemic is changing and the children are becoming the leading edge of resurgence of this disease. We are seeing this in states like Michigan and other places in the Midwest. We now know unequivocally that mitigation strategies work. Wearing masks, especially indoors, in addition to good hand hygiene, helps to prevent the spread of this disease, and these are the only options that our kids less than age 16 have to protect themselves and their peers. There is overwhelming data that initiation of mask mandates saves lives and prevents hospitalization. I know that everyone is fatigued and wants to get back to a more normal way of life. For the first time in this pandemic, we are seeing a rise in hospitalizations before we're seeing a rise in cases. This is worrisome. This tells us that people are no longer aggressively screening for this disease, and people are delaying reporting their sick symptoms until they require emergency medical care. This is not the time to roll the dice with the students and staff of PUSD or the community as a whole. Until every student has the opportunity to receive a mask, it is my medical opinion that masks should be required indoors on all PUSD campuses.
Yep.
I'm comfortable staying there. Is that?
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Jenna James, followed by James Nottrell and Aaron Daniels.
Madam President, board members, Mr. Howard, I'm here tonight to ask that you please consider requiring masks in schools for the remainder of the school year. I would like to share with you some recent statistics compiled about COVID cases in children as presented by Dr. Sean O'Leary, Vice Chair of the American Academy of Pediatrics Committee on Infectious Diseases. For the majority of 2020, COVID cases among children have made up only 3% of total cases nationwide. In recent weeks, and data collected through April 29th, COVID cases in children now make up nearly 1/4 of all cases nationwide. In a communication from district administration, the district went from no COVID cases to 12 positive cases, resulting in approximately 180 students in quarantine protocol, disrupting learning for those students and for their teachers. You'll hear arguments from others that masks should not be required because anyone who wants to be vaccinated can be, so we no longer have any moral or social obligation to protect others. Approximately 60% of the country's population has received a vaccination, but in Yavapai County that rate is less than 40%. And while all teachers and staff have been provided with the ability to get vaccinated, guess who doesn't have any access to vaccines? Anyone 16 or younger, which makes up the majority of the district's more than 4,000 students. The only mitigation strategies available to those students are masks and physical distancing. And based on the fact that we're here now having this conversation, after only recommending but not requiring masks in school the past few weeks, the evidence shows that masks were effective in reducing and eliminating spread within district schools. These are the facts. Facts don't require our approval, but they do require our action. As parents, we count on the board to make the decision that is best for the district as a whole, not always the popular choice. I'd be willing to bet that most parents here would be in favor of wearing masks to school if it meant keeping their children in school full-time for the remainder of the school year instead of transitioning to distance learning. Let nurses go back to putting Band-Aids on boo-boos instead of calling quarantined students and families to check on their symptoms. I ask you to consider this not just for my own children, but for the health and well-being of all students in the district.
Thank you. James, would you pronounce your last name for me?
Yes, my name is James Knuckle. I went to Prescott Mile High Middle School, but have no current connection with the Prescott schools. I spend most Sundays at the Prescott Valley Farmers and Artisans Market, encouraging people to use Edgar Casey's recommendation to treat lung problems by inhaling the fumes of apple brandy from a charred oak keg. The ethanol is an antiseptic, and the apple and the oak flavoring compounds help stimulate the lungs to fix themselves. I have some fantastic anecdotes about people recovering from COVID-19 and other acute and chronic lung conditions by self-treating with apple brandy. So I'm a little fed up with the country's terrible response to this COVID-19. There's a comedian on TV. His name is Bill Maher. He's a liberal, and he's a little fed up too. He had a monologue recently. It's titled, "New Rule, Give It to Me Straight, Doc." It's about all the lies that are told about our predicament. Towards the end of this monologue, the comedian said, "If you lie to people, even for a very good cause, you lose their trust. The lie that you are considering tonight is that masks have net positive effects. And the truth is that everyone hates masks, but they don't have the words to express the harm they experience. The further truth is that the 2019 CDC mask recommendation is that there's no point in asking people to mask up because people don't wear masks correctly and they're harmed by inhaling through dirty face coverings." I have a funny anecdote. I was checking out at the pharmacy. I said to my masked mother next to me, I said, "You see that lady right there? She's taking a nose break." That means that we could see her nostrils. My mother's employee pulled up her mask and said, "You see that other lady right there?" Pointing at the other employee. "She's taking a nose break too." My mother was fed up. She said, "You go outside." She's ashamed of being with her unmasked son at the pharmacy. The employee yanked down her mask. She stuck her tongue out at me, and then she went to bat. She said, "You don't have to go outside. It's okay." My mother said, "Yes, he does." It's kind of funny. So in conclusion, I encourage you to be truthful with your students and vote against diapering their faces, because they will resent you and they will be harmed. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Erin Daniels, followed by Whitney Williams and Megan Reynolds.
I am so grateful for the dedicated individuals within our district that have sacrificed so much this past year, from teachers in the classroom to every other facet of our district. I know we don't understand all that you have given to help each child, all the time, effort, and concern you have shown in such a time as this. Please don't leave here today without knowing that I, my family, and my kids are so blessed for your efforts. You have responded diligently in the constant change. May we all respond with grace and kindness in the decisions ahead. We can do hard things. We are willing to wear masks.
Thank you. Thank you. Whitney Williams, followed by Megan Reynolds and Kristen Lantrip.
Hello, board. If you don't mind indulging me, board and community members, if you don't mind, in a couple of classroom greetings. So the first one, if you don't mind, you can take a big deep breath of air, hold it, pull your mask down, and smile. Do you mind? Ready? 1, 2, 3. And then put it back on. And another one is just give yourself a hug. And instantly, you'll notice your brain starts to feel happier and more connected to the people in the room. And these are just some of the things as a classroom teacher we do to make sure students do feel connected. So as I said, I'm a 4th grade teacher at Abayajed, and I absolutely love my students. The reason I am standing up here is truly because of them. I am nervous that with the increases in self-quarantines due to COVID contacts, it will be like last year all over again, where we don't get to say goodbye. I have to advocate for every measure to be in place that can help make this year as normal as possible. Mask wearing is less detrimental to my students than missing out on the last few weeks of school. I'm witnessing firsthand the ill effects of the increase of close contacts. It is hurting our children. With masks, at least more students are in school on any given day. With masks, blah, 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 learning, happy, social, silly, brave humans, and with the increase in SQs, students are home again. Wednesday, May 26th, the 4th grade at Abaya Judd is throwing a big birthday bash to celebrate all of the students' birthdays. The second to last day of school. Each student will get a cupcake, a candle, and we will sing happy birthday to each one. I have faith in the board to make the decision acknowledging all perspectives, including the students in dual credit courses with compromised immune. Oh, I'm sorry, my time's up. Thank you so much, board.
Thank
Have
you.
a nice night.
Megan Reynolds, followed by Kristen Lantrip and Aaron Lotz.
Hello, I'll keep mine short and sweet. My name is Megan Reynolds. I'm a kindergarten teacher at Abaya Judd Elementary. I'm also a mother of an 8th grade student at Mile High and a 6th grade student at Granite Mountain. Let me first speak as a teacher. My students have not been negatively impacted educationally by wearing masks. It has simply been a part of being in school and in class. We are so happy to be together in person that wearing a mask is absolutely a non-issue. In fact, we've had some amazing conversations on why we wear masks as an ultimate act of kindness and caring to one another. My classroom community is as strong as it has ever been. There are true friendships and relationships that have been formed, as have been in my other 10 years of teaching experience. What will negatively impact my students is contracting COVID, or knowing one of their friends has COVID, or having to quarantine for multiple days as a close contact, or having to end the year in virtual learning because the schools have had to close down due to the spread. All of these can be avoided by mandating masks be worn again. As a parent, I'm absolutely terrified sending my middle schoolers to school every day since the mandate has been lifted. But with 2 working parents, we simply do not have a choice but to send them. My kids wear masks, but they are still vulnerable to contracting COVID from those that are not. Please help protect them by reinstating the mask mandate in our schools. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Kristen Lantrip, followed by Aaron Lotz and Brian Patterson.
Hi, thank you for this opportunity. Since the email was sent on Thursday, 4/29, as of today, Prescott has 1 documented case of COVID. The city of Prescott has approximately 43,000 residents. Just prior, Yavapai County Health website stated that there were 12 documented cases in Prescott on 4/26, which was just 5 days after the mandate was lifted. So we're all 12 cases in our school district. We have 7 schools with approximately 3,800 children. So even though that seems unlikely that all 12 were in the district, if so, the percentage of infection would still be significantly lower than 1%, the 0.003 to be exact. So I believe we need transparency in this data because there's no proof or documentation required by the district when reporting a COVID absence. And being that so many students, their lives are upended over this and having to quarantine, I would think that we would have a better process for that. And I do believe kids were still quarantined when the masks were on. I think we could all debate the efficacy of masks forever, but we are here today to do what's best for our children, and I hope those of you that were elected to be on the board feel the same way. It's been proven that kids have a near zero risk of illness and a near zero risk of transmission, and with staff being vaccinated and several therapeutics available, cases and hospitalizations going down, and states opening up, we cannot force the kids to wear a mask for almost 500 minutes a day, 5 days a week, so that fearful adults feel safer. There is a school just outside of the PUSD district that they work with autistic children, and they've had their masks off since spring break, and they have 0 COVID cases, and they work in very close contact. Masks should be a personal choice between children and their family, and if you really want to do what's best for them, just look around the school because most kids are unmasked, and putting masks on them at this point, I believe, is nonsensical and illogical. Thank you.
Thank you. Aaron Lotz, followed by Brian Patterson and Kim Glaza.
Hi, I'm Erin Lotz. I have an 8th grader and a 6th grader in PUSD. I want to thank you for your leadership. It's tough decisions like those that have to be made during the pandemic really rely on good leadership. So I really, really want to thank you for that. Our kids need that good leadership. Our kids also are learning to be leaders by your modeling and our modeling. In my work, I have to make similar decisions at an educational institution about mask wearing and all of the protocols that go along with COVID-19. I know it's hard, but it can also be done successfully. We've learned so much this year. Things keep changing. Our relationship to the virus is changing as we get vaccinated, as we learn more about it. So our decisions have to keep changing. I do want to ask you to ask our school community to put their masks back on for the remaining 17 days. 2 things. I want our kids to participate as much as they can. I want my son to be able to do the final track meet that he wasn't able to do because he had to go home and quarantine. I want my 8th grader to be able to be present at the 8th grade party. I want the high schoolers to have a graduation this year with everybody there, not have kids home quarantining. It's not the virus for our kids that scares me or the number of cases that scares me right now. It's the kids missing out on normal life. Let's get through this. The other thing is kids shouldn't be left to make this decision on their own. Somebody made a point about it's good decision-making opportunity. The kids that are being bullied, pressured, peer pressured to take their masks off, that's not okay for them to have to make that decision by themselves. We see globally and locally that intentional management of the virus allows us more freedoms more quickly. The opposite makes us have the opposite. Less management does the opposite.
Thank you. Brian Patterson, Kim Glaza, and Stan Goligoski.
Hello, my name is Brian Patterson. I'm asking you to reinforce the mask mandate. One of my sons is actually at Granite Mountain School, and unfortunately he had to quarantine because somebody else, of no fault of his own, tested positive, and having him stay at home, miss out on his AZ merits, that's not fair to him. I do understand that there's 12 kids positive and 180 kids that are having to quarantine. We have 3 weeks left of school left. My son asked me, what happens if I go back to school and somebody else tests positive? Am I going to have to go home again? Yes. So, that's not fair to the kids in sports. So I just ask you to please reinstate the mask mandate again for the kids. One of the other issues I was thinking was with 3 weeks to go, we had made it this far with 1 case, I believe, all the way up until this point. Now we're at 12 cases, 180 kids having to quarantine. Put yourselves in those kids' spaces. Mask mandate or optional wearing the face mask. They're kids, 10 years old, 12 years old. They're going to do what their friends are doing. If their friends aren't wearing a mask, they're not going to want to wear a mask. If their friends are wearing a mask, they're going to think it's okay. Everybody's going to get along. So try not to punish the kids that are having to quarantine through no fault of their own. Thank you.
Thank you. Kim Glaza. Kim, how do you pronounce your last name?
It's Glaza, but Glaza works too. That's
Glaza. Followed by Stan Goligoski and Robert Charlock.
Hello, my name is Kim Glaza, and I'm the mother of an 8th grade daughter who attends Mile High and a 4th grade son who attends Via Judd. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to be heard on this matter of kids and masks, and I appreciate that you're trying to do what is best for our kids. We are a new family to Prescott Unified. This is our first year in the district. We moved to Arizona to help preserve our freedoms as Americans. We were happy our kids were able to attend school in person, and even happier when they were able to take the masks off. My 10-year-old son, who attends Abaya Judd, did not have any friends when we moved here in August and hadn't made any close friends. That was until the masks were removed. He has since made a close friend, and I'm so grateful after having watched him struggle with serious depression, being stuck at home and then at school with a mask on. He was unable to connect with his peers. Please do not let him go back to that sense of isolation. My 14-year-old daughter was on quarantine last week because a student she had limited contact with at school tested positive for COVID. But my daughter has already had COVID, but it wasn't within the CDC guidelines of the last 90 days. This was another week of being stuck at home, missing out on school for a virus that isn't dangerous for her age group. When I read the district email about how many kids were out of school, I thought the problem isn't with the number of positive cases, the problem is sending healthy kids home. Sick kids should be quarantined, not healthy kids. Prescott Valley School District does not do this type of quarantining of healthy students. Masks should remain optional. There is very little left of this school year, and our family is focused on building connections in this new community, and masks are an unnecessary hindrance to that. We have to look past the short-sightedness of safety and look deeper into what we are doing to our kids' mental health under the guise of keeping them safe. Thank you.
Thank you. Stan Goligoski, Robert Charlock, and then William Bazin. Stan?
Yep, thank you. I'm going to be very transparent this evening. I don't like to wear a mask. They're hot and uncomfortable and plain drive me nuts. But I'm required to wear one. Even when I'm required, I don't. Plus, it's so difficult to judge anyone's emotion when we're wearing masks. Personally, there are many other items that I can't stand wearing throughout my life. One was called an M40 field protective mask, more commonly known as a gas mask. I've worn those for hours on end in the middle of July in the Mojave Desert, along with the charcoal-lined nuclear, biological, and chemical suit, rubber gloves, and rubber overboots. However, breathing in the CS gas was not healthy as an alternative. The other items that I've worn, but was done without hesitation, was an IBA, or what you call a bulletproof vest, while deployed overseas many, many times. While this may seem very extreme, if there's a parent in here that's never told their kids to put on a helmet before they got on their bicycle, strapped on a pair of skis or snowboard, or jumped on their motocross bike or razor, or made sure they put on their earplugs or ballistic glasses prior to firing on a range, or put on a jacket and stocking cap because it's cold outside, or put on sunscreen in the summer to prevent sunburn because they might develop skin cancer, then I say, okay, your kids shouldn't have to put on a piece of cloth over their mouth or nose either. Nowadays, we can't even imagine one of our kids stepping into the batter's box without a helmet, play soccer without shin guards, or play football without the necessary equipment. You get the point. All these items were developed for our protection. So no matter what you decide tonight, we trust that you're making the decision for the protection of our kids and for your employees. If you make masks mandatory in order for our kids to physically learn in the classroom, we might not like your decision, but I'll respect and honor it.
Thank you. Robert Charlock, and then William Bazin. It's so small I can't see it. And then Bridget Hunt.
I have a question for the board, but it has nothing to do with what this topic is all about, so I think I should defer it until you're completely finished with this discussion.
Is it a topic related to something on which we will be voting tonight?
No.
Then I would ask you to contact us another time.
I was told when I came here that I could speak about something that is not on the agenda. There were two boxes on the sheet. I just have a quick question. I mean, you could answer the question probably quicker than we could debate whether or not I can ask it or not. But I think it should be after.
I'll chat with you afterwards about how we can support you, sir.
I can't understand you.
I'll be happy to chat with you afterwards about how we can support you and help answer your question.
Well, my question's for the entire board.
We'll get your question to the board.
William, your name is so tiny on here, I can't see
I have very
it.
small handwriting. It's William Bazell.
Thank you.
Just my 2 cents basically on this matter is, I don't know if the board is aware, there's been one gold standard study on the efficacy of masks, 1981, surgical operating theater, proved definitively masks can never work to prevent diseases like this. It's been questioned 30 times over the year, and every single attempt to question it has failed. They are not even attempting now because everyone has always accepted that this was the case. MIT also now shows that this here is significantly more dangerous than anything going on in the classroom, because the amount of time people are in an area with a group of people is actually what determines whether or not COVID is spread, not masking, not social distancing. So we actually have parents here whose kids are quarantining because they're at risk, and now we're all at risk, so we might as well just shut down the school at that point. So I don't really understand it. I don't actually think science has anything to do with this. I think we've known for 40 years, and we're just moving on. We're trying to do things because I don't even know at this point. But I'd be happy to discuss that. It's the only study that should actually matter, because it's the only one that actually had controlled group versus non-controlled group, and none of the stuff anyone's referencing here tonight does. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay. Bridget Hunt, and then Nicole Mecho, and then April Gray.
I'm kind of short.
You may pull the mic down. Thank you.
Okay, I have I'm a parent of 3 PSD students, 7th grade, 9th grade, and 11th grade, and I can honestly say that the last 2 weeks of school have been the best 2 weeks we've had the entire year. My 9th grader, who just started high school, was a complete mess because she had straight A's, the social problems. It was horrible. And I just ask that you guys let parents and families make the decisions. That's all I have to say.
All right, thank you. Nicole.
Hi, I'm going to make this pretty quick. You've had positive COVID cases since the kids have come back to school. They've worn masks, and you've still had other children quarantined because of this. Okay, my son is 5 years old. This is his first year at Abaya Judd. He loves school. Math is his favorite subject, and every single day prior to the mask coming off, I asked him, what do you like? What do you not like? Every single day it was the same answer: hated the mask. He's 5, he wants to play. You couldn't believe how excited he was when he finally got to go to school and see his friends' faces who he had not seen before. Please leave this up to the parents to make these decisions. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, that's me.
All right.
This has and still is one stressful ride. Let me just say I see you, I appreciate you, and thank you for all that you do. I am a mother of 2 PSD students, and that's why I'm here. A psychologist, Dr. Linehan, developed the wise mind theory, which explains that the mind has 3 states: the reasonable mind, the emotional mind, and the wise mind. We use these states of mind when faced with decisions and choices in our lives. In our emotional mind, feelings take control of thoughts and behaviors. This is where all our raw emotions live. In our reasonable mind, we make decisions based on facts, based in reality. We can run into trouble when we focus only on one or the other. So that third state, our wise mind, considers both the emotional and reasonable mind. It is an overlapping of the 2 states of mind. In the wise mind, we can be aware of and driven by emotion, but also pay attention to the facts. We can become action-oriented, problem-solving. This is where that's at. For many of us, our emotional mind is filled with exhaustion, fear, anger. It's revved up right now. We may also have some emotions that are optimistic and hopeful. But our reasonable mind has also showed up tonight. Face masks reduce infection risk. They are cheap and easy to use. They are simple, straightforward. They are a way to reduce the spread. Wearing a mask is a prevention strategy, not an unjust mandate. Combining mask wearing, hand washing, and good ventilation improves our efforts to fight this. So why not? We are here tonight because we care about those humans that sit in that classroom. In-person learning is the best overall experience for both teachers and students, and masks make more sense for keeping kids in school for the remainder of the year. I'm asking for you today to approach these decisions with a wise mind, being aware both the emotional and saving room for that reasonable mind and facts. Thank you.
Next speaker is Molly Horan.
I'm Molly Horine. Can I change it? Can I move it?
If you need to move it up, there you go.
I'm a little tall. Okay, so I just want to say thank you all, and I hope that all of you on this board came tonight with an open mind. I hope you did not come with a decision already in hand. I hope you actually listened to some of these people. I guess there's only two things that I wanted to say. When I signed up my kids for PUSD many moons ago, by the way, I have 3 kids at PUSD right now. I have 2 actually biological kids and 1 foreign exchange student. Yes, I do have a foreign exchange student. Kind of weird that they actually did allow that during COVID. So kind of weird, but yes, she got to see people's faces for the first time this quarter, beside the point. When I signed up my kids for kindergarten, way back when, I had to prove that my kids had vaccines, correct? So, great, no problem, but there are also some kids in the school district that did not have to have vaccines, and yet you still let them in the school district. And that was their parent choice to not have their kids vaccine. I guess what I'm trying to say is, it's my choice as a parent to that of whether I want my kids to wear a mask or not. Do I think it's selfish? Not really. Do you think it's selfish? Yes. Do you think that what I'm doing is selfish? Do I think that what you're doing is selfish? Yes. So I'm just asking, as you, as a board, to think about all these choices that you had tonight and think about both sides, but make the right choice. Thank you.
So we've got a couple on Zoom. Is that
Yeah.
it for, okay?
Yep.
A couple on Zoom.
We have some speakers who are going to provide their input on Zoom, so.
It's very difficult for them to hear us, so when you're ready, I'm just going to tell them to hear you.
Okay, so are there 3 of them? Because I only have 2. Okay. Scott
I
Pidot.
can actually hear him much better now.
Okay.
Okay.
Scott, would you like to speak? I don't think he's hearing me.
Scott, you're muted.
Oh, sorry, did you say it's my turn?
Yes, please.
Sorry about that. So thank you very much. So during a prior board meeting last summer, I expressed some concern regarding the district's reopening plan, but in my observation throughout the past school year, our local district has been a shining example, in my opinion, of how to successfully mitigate COVID by following the recommendations of the very scientific methods that our students are taught. So I first want to sincerely thank this board, the district staff, and most importantly, our teachers and students for accomplishing this despite so many challenges presented. I want to read a quote from the CDC website. It says, "Masks work best when everyone wears one." This is a position that seems to be shared by most medical professionals, several of which have spoken tonight. And it's also a strategy that's been pretty well proven for decades by countless other countries throughout the world in dealing with airborne viruses. And I'm not aware of those countries experiencing the psychological issues that many are expressing concern in the U.S. By wearing a mask. Instead, those countries have typically kept their schools and their economy open throughout multiple pandemics by following those public health protocols. So I'm here to say that I wholeheartedly support reinstating the mask policy. I know that masks aren't guaranteed to prevent COVID. I know that we could very well see some COVID cases crop up even after reinstating the mask policy. But I do feel that wearing a cloth covering over one's face is a pretty small, but a very worthy sacrifice to make in order to try and keep educating our children while also taking reasonable measures to protect our community. And as one other commenter already mentioned, we only have 17 days remaining in the school year. So let's end it on a positive note by following the same successful policy that got us to this point. And then everybody can use the summer to reevaluate and plan for the next school year. Thanks again.
Thank you. Angie.
Hi, my name is Angie Cloutier. I want to say good evening and thank you for allowing me to speak today. On April 19th at 3:30 p.m., Governor Ducey posted on his Twitter account, "I'm rescinding orders that direct K-12 schools to require masks." He followed up with, "Teachers, families, and students have acted responsibly to mitigate the spread of the virus and protect one another, and our school leaders are ready to decide if masks should be required on their campuses." I agree with that. I've trusted the decisions the school district has made with regard to mask wearing because they have offered sound logic and good statistics with every move they've made up to this point. Nearly every day, I trust you with the two most important people in my life. I trust you to care for them, educate them, feed them, teach them wrong from right when I'm not around. My children are everything to me, and I come before you today to ask that you continue to respect that trust relationship. Science and statistical analysis are showing you that COVID cases in our school district have drastically increased in the 2-week period that you have not enforced a mask mandate. While I wish that personal responsibility could lead the way in the mask discussion, I think the last 2 weeks prove that it cannot. Children are not eligible to get the vaccine and they are not immune to the virus. They also do not interact only with other children. Exposing them to an environment where the virus can easily be spread also means exposing every other person they come into contact with. A page on the CDC website, which was updated on April 23rd, continues to recommend masks in schools, stating clearly all schools should implement and layer prevention strategies and should prioritize universal and correct use of masks and physical distancing. My ask is simple. Listen to the science and prove the governor right. Show families like mine that school leaders stand ready to protect our kids. Reinstate the mask mandate. As a mother and a voter, I will be paying attention to the decision you make. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who did not get to speak who wishes to do so? Do you have a form filled in?
Is that Aaron?
Oh.
Here. Okay. Who are you?
Okay.
Crystal?
We'll fill out a form after she's here.
Get you taken care of. Aaron, come on up.
And there's one more in the back there.
All right. If you have not filled in a form or we didn't get it for some reason, please come on up and we'll have you fill it in once you've spoken.
You can see Denise right over here. And
she's got forms over there. Okay.
Hi, I'm Erin Holloway. I teach in a self-contained classroom at Granite Mountain, and I'm the president of the Prescott Education Association. While I'm not speaking for the association, I can say that a majority of the members that I spoke to felt that we needed to consider going back to masks. We do not want to go to close again, and are concerned that so many of our kids have been sick or quarantined since the requirement has been lifted. We are also concerned because all year we have struggled to get subs, and now that the mandate has been lifted, it's become worse, leaving our schools understaffed. We feel it is best for our students and staff's emotional and academic health to stay with the science and follow the recommendations of the CDC instead of worrying about the political and emotions of our community. This mandate will help keep our parents at work, our students on campus, and everybody healthy and safe for the remainder of the school year. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay. Crystal Moody.
I'm Crystal Moody. I was in public education for 10 years. I actually have a master's degree in educational leadership. And I know the hardest thing about public education is the parents. So I'm a little embarrassed to be here. But no matter what, I definitely know that we are all here for the same reason, and that is the passion of our children, not just mine that I love, but I know the teachers, the principals, I know that when they sit there, they have the same desire and they're looking for all of the kids. I want to know what's next. My kids are great kids, and if you ask them to wear a mask, they will. They will do whatever you ask them. And you did, and they did, and we did. We followed the rules. We will go anywhere that it's posted, and we will wear them. And then you said, let's just wait till the numbers are down. So we did. And then you said, let's wait till we get the vaccines, and we definitely did, and we will. But I want to know, what is that next benchmark to move forward from this? I feel like we did have a little bit of a spike. I personally know one of the families. My daughter's on quarantine right now because she was with that child at dance over the weekend. Those are things that we can't control in the classroom. We can't control where and who our kids are with on the weekends, and she's out for that. These are 3 of the 12 that are out. It was one family that got it from their father, and this is, again, me personally knowing. I travel with them and everything, and we didn't know when we were there. Right when we found out, we did the right thing, and I called my daughter out of school before anybody even had to ask me to. We will do the right thing if you give us a chance. I just want to know, what is that next benchmark? You know, if you ask us and you tell us this is what we need to wait for and it will get better, we will. Because that's the type of people that we are. I don't see this going away, and I don't see that next benchmark. I want to move forward and continue to move forward and deal with these things as they come, to move on from this, as I think we all do. Thank you, guys. I really hope that we can move forward without the masks.
Thank you. Dawn Despain.
Hi, my name is Dawn Despain. I have 4 kids in the school district, a 5th grader, 7th grader, 10th grader, and 12th grader, and up until a few days ago, a foreign exchange student. So I have been in my house off and on with multiple children for the last year. I can tell you that when I told my 7th grader that we were going to go to school without masks, she reacted like I told her I was going to take her to Disney World. So to say that she was excited was the understatement of the century. Benchmarks were mentioned. I feel like benchmarks are constantly being moved. We have done everything that we've asked to do. We have stayed home. We have come to school. We have worn masks. We've taken the masks off. My children are happiest without the masks when they can interact with other students and their friends and peers. And the roller coaster of emotions and emotional and mental health is completely overlooked right now with the children. When I hear children are resilient, I beg to differ, because how many adults do you know that are still lamenting about abuse from their childhood and situations that were out of their control? These kids will constantly be talking about the year that was a total crapshoot. And academically, it has been for my kids. My kids are A students. We are averaging D's and F's just because of the disconnection between teachers and what day do we do this and what day do we do that. And we need to stop moving the goalpost, and we need to let our kids breathe. Thank you.
Thank you. I believe that we have heard from everyone who wished to speak tonight. I don't see any more hands raised. I want to thank you all for being here. I want to thank you for the respectful way that you have expressed your opinions. They are important to us, and we now need to make some very difficult decisions. So, Alexa, would you come up and answer some questions, please? Thanks, Kathy.
Good evening. I thought I'd give a little bit of a snapshot of what we have been working through the last couple of weeks. In terms of COVID in our schools, my name is Alexa Scholl. I'm the Health and Safety Coordinator for Prescott Unified School District. I was hired on this year to help our schools mitigate COVID and help work with our principals, our teachers, and our nurses during this difficult time. So just after Governor Ducey lifted the executive order mandating masks, we did see an increase in COVID cases in our schools. It started with a family of 4 siblings who all tested positive. Unfortunately, they were at 4 different schools. From that incident, we had about 90 students quarantined, and that's when we started to see what we believe to be school transmission. So at 2 of our schools, 2 of the students who had been quarantined later tested positive. And when that happens, we do a case investigation. So I follow up with our nurses to get the details of the situation, and I typically follow up with the families as well. In talking with those families, talking about where they've been, what they've been doing, if anyone at home is sick, any known COVID exposure outside of school, asking what type of test they received, symptoms, all of these questions, it became pretty clear that those 2 students were exposed to the virus at school and then subsequently tested positive. In one specific case, the student was exposed at school. Both parents are vaccinated, and there has not been any exposure outside of school to COVID. So in that case, we feel pretty confident that that student caught COVID at school. And while we have been seeing cases of COVID throughout the school year, even when masks were required, what's different in this situation is this transmission that we're seeing at school. Prior to masks being optional, we had one instance of possible transmission at school that happened in one of our Discovery Gardens classrooms. Per Governor Ducey's executive order, students under 5 were not required to wear masks, so that transmission happened in a classroom where masks were not being worn. So that's the concern that I have as the health and safety coordinator, is that prior to masks being optional, we weren't seeing school transmission. We were seeing a few cases pop up here and there. And then after masks being optional, we were starting to see some spread at school. So that's my concern. I've been personally working closely with county health. They help us through these situations. They help us give us guidance in terms of, if and when we need to contact trace. Throughout this school year, we've been following guidance for quarantine and isolation from the Arizona Department of Health Services. They've updated that guidance regularly, and we've been following that with any updates they provide. So I'm happy to answer any questions from the board prior to you making your decision.
Alexa, how do we know if a student actually has COVID?
Yeah, that's a great question. So our first line of defense with this is our nurses. Our nurses have established great rapport with our families. And so typically what happens is when we get a call that a family has tested positive or is awaiting test results, our nurses are the ones that are in contact with that family. They let us know that they test positive. We do not require documentation of this. We have yet to have a situation where a family has been untruthful with us about test results. In some cases, families will voluntarily email us their test results. After a family tests positive, I typically follow up with that family and I ask them where they got tested, what type of test, what prompted them to get tested, all of those questions. While we don't require the test result in front of us, we do ask a lot of questions that lead us to believe the student is positive, especially if our nurses have been able to assess the student in their office.
I'll throw out a question that I think we keep coming back to, and I think what's really important in this is the quarantining issue.
Correct.
of having kids be in quarantine. Can you either remind or explain just how we do that and how long that quarantine lasts?
Sure. So when we're notified of a student who has tested positive, we immediately begin contact tracing. That typically happens by our school principals or a site administrator. We go into classrooms and work with teachers. All of our teachers are still using seating charts, and so we follow, we look at the seating charts, we look at attendance, conversations with teachers, if there's been any group work, stuff like that. And as soon as we identify what's a close contact, that's defined as someone who has been within 6 feet of an infected person for more than 15 minutes over a 24-hour period. So once we have identified those students, we pull them out of class if it's still the middle of the school day, and we begin contacting parents. For a close contact that happens at school, we quarantine students for 10 days. If it's a close contact that has happened in the community, say by a family member has tested positive, a student is quarantined for 14 days. And the reason we have differentiated those is because when we have a close contact at school, we know when that contact happened with that infected person, how long that contact was for, and we know that it didn't continually happen. Concern with community contact, especially if it's someone within the household who has tested positive, is we don't know the extent of the contact with that person, and if the student is continually being in contact with that infected person. In some cases, we will work with families on a 7-day quarantine timeline that requires the family to get the student tested with a PCR test. And once we have negative results, that student can return after day 7 of quarantine. We work one-on-one with families because it is kind of a specific outline and guidelines that they need to follow in order for their student to return.
If you have a close contact, you have a positive student in a classroom, close contact students, do we not quarantine the ones who are wearing masks?
No, we quarantine anyone who has been identified as a close contact, and that's guidance for AZDHS, regardless of mask wearing.
So wearing masks would not, wearing masks would not impact the number of students being quarantined?
No, it would not.
Thank you.
Alexa, I'm sorry.
Yeah, go on, Andy.
Current trends in Prescott. I mean, we've seen a lot of different numbers, but just looking at the AZDHS website, you see different numbers come up by zip code. How is it looking here in Prescott right now?
So countywide, we look at the school's dashboard on AZDHS. Our metrics have stabilized, so they kind of pop up and down. I know Joe French and Leslie Horton from the county are here. I don't know if Joe wants to speak specifically to the trends we've been seeing in Prescott.
I'm Joanne French. I am a communicable disease nurse. I have been working with the county in doing case investigations and contact tracing.
Joe, I'm sorry, I can't understand you. Thank you.
I have been working in Yavapai County doing case investigations and contact tracing since 1995. And so our current trends, we are seeing a little bit of an uptake because of probably decreased mask wearing in the community. And our schools are affected by what's going on in the community. So, and these numbers change every day. And I look at the data sort of like the martins, the flying birds that swoop and are all over the place. We take a snapshot at any one time, you take another snapshot, it's going to look different. Data is being put in by so many people and taken out and looked at. So looking day to day is not, it doesn't help us a whole lot, unless there's a great big spike. Once in a while we see that. But right now things are, let's see, today we had 50 new cases that were reported to us.
15?
50.
50.
Okay. 50.
County or in Prescott?
That is in the county.
How many were in Prescott?
I do not have those numbers in front of me. And I mean, I'm going down a list of all the cities. 18 in Prescott. Yeah, and some of the ones that came in today are coming from last week, the 28th, up until, well, I drew the numbers about 9 o'clock this morning.
Have we gone out of the CDC's like minimal range or whatever, the red, yellow, green, I don't know what our roadmap had on it. Have we gotten out of the minimal?
The low to moderate range.
I do not compare that in what I'm doing. Right now, I'm doing the statistics, and I'm a nurse. So there's a limit.
Alexa, have we gotten out of the moderate, low range?
Yeah, so the school's dashboard on AZDHS, we are still in moderate transmission. So we're in the moderate range for
And
transmission.
we were in moderate when we took the masks off?
Yes. Yep.
We were in moderate because the governor released the mask mandate. Not necessarily, or we released the mask mandate because the governor rescinded the mask mandate statewide, not because we were in moderate range. That didn't have anything to do with it. Am I correct on that?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. I think one thing that I would like to add is, while masking wouldn't affect whether or not we quarantine someone, the fact that we've had school transmission has increased the number of students that we've had to quarantine. So from those initial 4 students who tested positive, plus then the 2 that we believe were school transmission, we had to go back in those classrooms, re-contact trace, and quarantine more students. So if we can reduce the amount of school transmission that we're seeing, it will reduce the number of students that we're quarantining.
So you just said possible school transmission. Are you certain?
It is very difficult with 100% certainty to tell where someone got COVID unless they're living in a household with someone and then get sick. But in a case investigation, I call the family, I ask them questions about whether or not they wear masks, whether or not they're vaccinated, if they've had known exposure, if anyone else in the household is ill, all sorts of questions. And like I said, in that one specific instance, the parents were vaccinated, no one else in the household was ill, the student had been exposed to COVID at school and then subsequently tested positive.
I'm sorry. Once you're vaccinated, you can still get COVID.
Yes, you can.
So their parents could still have COVID and give it to them.
Isn't the whole idea, can you hear me?
I'm sorry.
No.
Okay. Isn't the whole idea of the mitigation now focused on getting herd immunity in the community? And when you say that, well, even people who are vaccinated can get COVID, is that not a pretty rare event that you see?
Yes, it's a rare event, but with any vaccination,
right,
you're not guaranteed that you will not get sick.
Correct. So it's about par with other, like the flus, the different variants of all the flus that we have? Okay.
Well, we're not going to know that information for a little bit.
Okay.
We're collecting that data. It will be looked at. But again, this is all new stuff.
Yeah, I understand that. And that's the hardest part. That, there's nothing to look back on and say, well, what did they do then, But I'm thinking that, I think that a lot of people are, the people who aren't worried, in fear, worried about this, especially for kids, I think that this is why we are, otherwise, if in another situation, Alexa, would we not be concerned about this group of kids who just happen to get, infected in this short time span?
I'm not sure I understand your question.
Yeah, I don't understand my own question.
It's a very complicated process.
Yeah, I know. And I think we're doing everything we know how to do, considering we don't know what we're doing.
One of the things I will say, and having listened to everyone speak tonight, is that, yes, masks don't make a difference in close contact. What makes a difference in passing it around is that the masks prevent us from sharing it with others. Would any of you let a surgeon operate on you without a mask? Okay, so that's number one. The other thing is, we know the biggest thing that can protect us from COVID is social distancing. So the schools get to do it 3 feet. When you've got a hallway full of kids, those kids need masks on. They can't control who's around them. In the classroom, you've got seating charts. We can easily contain it that way. But we want to cut down transmission. It takes everybody in the community protecting everybody else in order for us to have the best chance of coming out of this with as many people as we can unaffected by COVID.
I just want to simplify the question again. It's so complex. I go back to simplifying again and again. We have lots of experience with COVID. We have extremely successful experience with having COVID cases come to our school and then mitigate and not spreading them until 2 weeks ago. And folks, you're right. There's no right or wrong here. We're trying to listen to our community. You heard it tonight. It's pretty split. We're trying to listen to our community. We saw a window to try and see if we could do this thing without requiring it. And we saw alarming numbers. It's that simple. We could argue whether the numbers are alarming or not. We saw alarming things that we'd never seen in this whole situation. My folks came to me and said, this could get ugly. And that's when we said, we better have the conversation. And we know it's volatile, so we wanted to hear from you all tonight. We appreciate that greatly. So that's a part of our decision here. But to make it as simple as possible, we tried, and we saw some stuff that alarmed us. And I think that's what's before the board tonight. Is that alarming enough to put the mask back on and make it through 17 days? That's the question here tonight. Audience participation is not allowed. Thank you very much.
Are there any other questions that myself or I would like to thank you, Joe, for all of your support in these last few weeks. I have called Joe probably 10 to 15 times these last couple weeks as all of this is unfolding, and it's really nice to know that I can call someone and help us through these situations and make sure that we're doing the right thing and that we're following the right guidance.
Just one more question, Joe, and so based on your experience with and I know day by day you don't want to look at a single day and make any predictions or assumptions. The trend line now compared to the trend line November, December, I mean, I know it's going to be a bit different, but are we seeing a spread at a rate that could be close to, based on the same number or percentage of people that possibly could have COVID? Is that trend line moving in that same kind of trajectory, do you think?
There's things that are going on outside of our control with the variants.
That's the next thing.
And that is the unknown.
Right.
And when will the next variant come? That right now there's a couple of variants that are increasing the effectiveness of this, of COVID. Will the next one make people who've been already exposed to COVID vulnerable again? We don't know that. Okay. And so, and I wasn't issued a crystal ball.
Yeah.
And the guesses that we make, they're just guesses.
But based on what you know so far, a guess about the variants, how do they affect people that are not eligible for vaccines yet? Knowing that there's a good potential that vaccines for people under 16 will be available soon with the Pfizer, but what do you think these variants are going to be doing with people that don't have access to the vaccine yet?
Your guess is as good as mine.
Okay. There's no nationwide look at that so far?
They
to
are
see?
looking at that. That's why I spend 8 hours a day collecting data, putting it in a database, and they're looking at it. That's why things keep changing, because this is based on the data that we get in to the state, and the state shares with the CDC. That's why there's changes, because they're looking at that data. And all we can do is keep collecting the data, keep sharing the data, and they'll, and listening to the decisions of those who've done this before. This is a disease we don't know. We in the United States have been very successful in the past with brand new diseases. SARS was not a big deal in our country. COVID worked around whatever SARS wasn't able to. It's much more sneaky than anything else that I've ever worked with. So, and it's much more infectious than the flu. The masks and the social distancing, our flu numbers are unbelievable.
Good?
This is, very good.
Okay.
There's hardly any. I mean, they're under 1,000 for the state.
Okay.
So that means, number one, that social distancing and masking do make a difference with a virus. The other hand, it says that COVID is very infectious. It's not. Come and see the numbers. See the people.
I don't have a question, I just have a comment. With quarantining being 10 to 14 days, and we have, I know I'm not counting weekends, we have 17 days of school left. I think the COVID is out of the bag already, and putting the masks on at this point is not going to stop quarantining close contacts.
Does anybody else have any questions for Alexa? Leslie, did you have any comment?
As a parent and your public health director, I think you've got a difficult decision ahead of you. You've heard some really good perspective tonight on this decision, and it's up to you all. You're a school board that has a lot weighing on your shoulders. You've got a superintendent who's got a lot weighing on his shoulders this year. I know the feeling. It's really tough to make decision after decision on something we know very little about. And I sent a list of things that could be in-betweens. That's one thing to consider tonight. I realize a motion has been made, yet COVID is not a one-size-fits-all virus. And we do know that. We know that it affects children much differently than adults. Even in my own household, my children had it. They were sick for half a day. I had it and was sick for 2 weeks. And it's very different per person that gets it. Although, we also don't get to pick who gets it. And we do have vaccinations available to people now. Every person in this county, pretty much over the age of 16 now, because some of our providers do provide Pfizer. As of about next week, we will have vaccine available to those 12 and older. And I do believe going forward, going into next school year, going into the coming months, we're going to have to start looking at COVID differently. Once we can protect those who want protection from this, we do have to look at this a little bit differently. And therefore, we do have, we have some decisions to make going into this summer. I'm actually not here to tell you what to do tonight, because I feel like you need to listen to the parents and you need to listen to the science. You've got Joanne here who is an expert on this. She's been working on this, working really, really hard for our department for months, looking at what this is doing locally. We only have one lab that's testing for the variants. We don't know. We know there's a handful of cases. Those were tested out of VBMC, and we probably need to know more. We need more labs testing these things, and then to find out, are those folks that are vaccinated getting a variant? Are those variants spreading amongst our kids more? You know, there's a lot of things that we just don't know yet. So I can't give you that information. I do know that our kids do fare quite well with COVID, but we don't know which ones have vulnerable folks in the home. We don't know the underlying health conditions of our children, and there is some risk there. You've heard from our local physicians about that. And so just consider, though, that we do have Binax Now tests that are free to you, tons of them. We have so many. They're actually expiring in June. We need to get rid of these things, but they're a 15-minute rapid test. And one of my suggestions is to use these in the school nursing offices. Literally takes, it's a very quick, it's not even up to your sinuses, quick, an inch in the nose, little swab, and you'll have a result in 15 minutes. And you'll know, because I know that my kids were home last week with a different virus, that you'll know if that's that other virus or if it's COVID. And you can treat that very differently. Then you're not waiting a week to wait for that parent to decide to go get tested and get their result. And you'll know how to treat those kids right then and there. And you can decide, okay, well, we need to go back and deal with this handful of kids they were exposed to. And you'll know also right then and there when they came down with symptoms. Hopefully they were sent to the nurse's office. I do have a suggestion to also look at illness the way that you were looking at it earlier in the school year, because I know that a lot of kids are coming in sick and they're staying sick and they didn't get tested, and we don't know what they're passing around at this point. They're coughing, they're sneezing, and so it's really tough to know, and that's where those tests come in handy. So, you know, older kids transmit this a lot more than younger kids. Are also in passing periods a lot more and in less controlled environments. So you have those options of considering some in-between measures, in this case, to get you through the rest of the school year. I do want to see community spread stay low. That is our intent. I do hope that even if we see peaks and times of high COVID, that going into next school year, we just make that decision that we will be going to school. We have vaccinations. It doesn't spread much in kids. We do want to see our kids go to school. And so I am here today to tell you that whatever you decide to get us through this school year, I'll be here to support you. I'm here to support our community. And I do hope that you'll make the decision that is the best for your schools.
So, a question specifically to the rapid test. There's lots of them, from what I hear. As far as legally, red tape-wise, being public schools, what would we have to do or can we do to administer tests? As far as parental permission, as far as could we get them tomorrow and start using them tomorrow? Is it that simple, or is it more complicated because we're a public school?
So Leslie did send us a parent permission slip that we can use. We'd also would need to discuss whether or not our district admin team would feel more comfortable with just a permission slip or a parent on site in the nurse's office while that's happening. So there isn't a lot of red tape. We have some right now in our possession that we have used on occasion when we feel it's appropriate, and that's definitely something that we can do, you know, as soon as we have parent permission and establish that procedure.
That sounds like something that might be able to reduce the number of kids who would be quarantined. Is that true?
No. Not necessarily, no, because if the student tested positive with a rapid, we would then do our normal contact tracing procedures. You know, like Leslie said, what it would help us do is, you know, figure out if it's COVID or not. I will say, you know, we have a nurse or a health aide at every single one of our schools, including our Discovery Gardens preschool. Our nurses have done an excellent job, you know, parsing out what is COVID, what is not. We're seeing a lot of norovirus right now in our schools, which is stomach flu. So we're, you know, it's allergy season. We have some head colds going through that aren't COVID. So they have done a great job of you know, kind of triaging and figuring out what's an appropriate time frame for this person to be home. Do they need to be home for an entire 10-day COVID isolation, or can we send them home for a couple days, and when they feel better, they can come back? So this rapid test could be a tool to assist us in making those decisions, but it would not change our contact tracing procedures.
The rapid test that we give the schools, the people need to have symptoms. So
Yes.
it does not, you can't use it on people that are exposed and have no symptoms. That won't answer your question there.
So maybe a question to both of you. In terms of contact tracing, you know, we get compared a lot to private schools and charter schools that may have much less density. We have high density. And so, you know, the recommendation is keep people social distanced. That's not possible in our full classrooms. It's not possible in our hallways and our lunchrooms and things like that. I know we've been working closely with you. I know that before this, you call it whatever you want, about a week ago, or outbreak, we were trying to look for a way out of not contact tracing and not sending kids out on quarantine. And then we started to see transmissions. So, you know, here's our dilemma. We're like, okay, but what we've been doing is working. Like we have stopped COVID from spreading by doing that contact tracing. So I know, Joe, you've been working closely with Alexa, and Leslie, I know you deal with this a lot. Can we cut some corners on our contact tracing or quarantining? I mean, we'd love to do a whole lot less of that. But
Everybody in the world would love to do a whole lot less of that. No, you can't.
Yeah.
Is this on? It's important to ask questions, though, too, within that, and I think that you have been, like, has a kid had COVID already? There might be some exceptions there.
Right.
You know, I know some of the schools are truly watching for symptoms, and that's their only measure, which works except for that pre-symptomatic spread, and then you do end up having some transmission there. It just depends, and it depends how much. One of the things that works really well is if you can control it, trying to keep those kids in their pod groups so that it's lesser quarantine. And I think that's what some of the schools have done a little bit differently, is keeping the kids in smaller groups. And then you know that that smaller group, maybe not the whole classroom, not the, you know, there's not as many kids to quarantine, but it's really tough in those older ages. And so, like we said, there's, you know, that is still the tried and true method that we know now. And you can reduce the days in time, like Alexa said, from 14 down to 10 if it was a one-time contact and you know that that happened and isn't happening ongoing. But it is a tough one.
It works real well in hybrid. I know you all love that. But when we're trying to have as normal a day as possible and we're having kids participate in athletics and clubs and lunches and things like that, so that, you know, we're trying to do that, we're still having all of our mitigation factors in place besides the masks in the last 2 weeks. And so that was why we took that variable out, and we got a quick answer from COVID, is the way I see it.
I think one of the things that came through clear from the comments is we need to get a plan for next year put in place. And, I think if this isn't the time, we can wait till the future agenda items comes up, but I think we need to put that on a future agenda in putting a group together to figure this out for next year.
I would give you one caveat for that, is that the disease has a chance of changing direction completely on you. And you need to realize that it is in control. And so making plans are very good, but you need probably more than one plan.
Absolutely. And I think we just need a framework at least so we know where we're starting from. Not that hasn't been in place, but I think we can work with families, we can work with the board members, we can work with the administration to get something set up, a framework that would allow us to be flexible as needed.
Yeah.
There's a lot of change, hopefully, that's going to happen this summer, I think, from what I've been hearing on the news today, with more vaccines, even down to age 2, potentially by September. So if that happens and we can eliminate the serious illness side of the disease that we know of, I think we'd be in a much better place. So I hope that can be a future agenda item.
One thing I would add is we have been taking diligent notes from this year. What's worked, what hasn't, how can we keep kids, if there is a COVID spike, how can we keep kids in person? What are some methods we can do? We're keeping track of what's worked and what hasn't. And we are, preliminarily making plans for next year, with plan A, B, C, D, all the way to Z, depending on what the virus decides it wants to do. Something else we've been exploring is there's federal dollars that have been made available for testing in schools. Do we want to do widespread testing? Is that something we could do that would, help us identify students who have tested positive? So there are a lot of things we're thinking about, and as the summer moves on, we'll be working closely with, our board and district admin to make plans for next year, because we know that there is a high likelihood we'll be dealing with this for quite a while.
And that was exactly what I was going to say, is we have been meeting and discussing what does the future look like? What are some strategies we can implement based on what we've learned, knowing that we don't know exactly what it will look like, but we have learned a lot this year, and how can we prevent closing schools, having to go to hybrid? What can we do to space kids out? And Leslie did provide a very thoughtful list of other mitigation strategies, most of which we have been implementing as much as feasible, but we are also looking at them for the future, for next year. So it's a good thought, because I do hear people want to know, what is the future going to look like, and we're trying.
I also want to respectfully point out, which I always do, there's 229 other school districts in Arizona that are having the same conversation all year. And we're not alone, folks, and it's across the country. I mean, and if you can point me to one of those that has the answer, I'll call them up, I'll go visit them, and we'll do everything that they're doing. But I'm just being honest with you that every community's having this conversation, and there's not an answer to it yet that's real easy for anybody. So we're going to continue to work on that, but I am troubled by that question of, if you want us to say there won't be masks next year, I don't know how we can do that. I really don't know how we can do that. I hope there won't be. We tried it 2 weeks ago. Back in November, when folks were like, get back in school, we were pushing. You can ask my principals. I'm like, I don't care how, figure it out. By 2 weeks, I want your plan. We're moving back in. And then it came and did its thing and wiped us out for a while. But that's the story with this, folks. I don't know how you have a plan going forward that's not similar to what we have. And obviously, a lot of people sort of ditched the state plan, the AZDHS plan, and everyone did that to some extent across the state in terms of what moderate or low or whatever level we were in with that. So I think the whole state needs to look at that, and we also need to look at that, and we're going to continue to listen to our community and try and meet all of your needs.
For sure. So in trying to think of the bigger picture of a year ago, 8 months ago, the main concern and the priority is getting kids in school. Right, and we all remember back in January and February the hardship that was, and the frustration and the challenge, and so one thing that I keep coming back to is our priority is to have kids in school, and I will say, and I will take this opportunity, especially in front of a good amount of people. Our school district did an amazing job of preparing the schools and adapting the schools, putting up plexiglass, putting in hand sanitizer, everything that it took. Our principals, our administration worked hard to have our schools be ready to have kids in school. And this is hard. I know now we're debating masks. For me, I keep trying to put it in perspective of the top priority is kids in school. And under that is kids being safe and kids learning. But as I'm wrestling with this, and I've talked to countless people over the last couple weeks, and for sure for the folks of y'all that shared today, thank you for coming and being a part of this with us. It's good. It takes a community, right, to raise kids. We need to. There's no right or wrong decision, and so maybe in my mind, it helps to make a priority. What our priority is kids in school, and more so than secondary than would be masks. And so, helping as we wrestle through that is kids in school is more important than the mask question. That one's right there underneath it, but. Kids in school is what's most important, and so that's what I keep coming back to. And again, just a thank you to all of our staff for helping us get kids in school more than a lot of districts around the country. So thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you, Joe and Leslie. I appreciate you hanging out here with us tonight. Anything else?
Man, I don't want to prolong the vote, but this is hard, and it's accurate. A handful of people said this is a tough decision, and they're right. And a comment that I feel is important to make is that this is a very divided issue, obviously, that about half of the people here today said one thing and half said the other. And that just points to the difficulty of this. It points to the division that there is. I have 2 kids in the district. And my one son, who's a senior at the high school, he made the comment to me of he wants to graduate, and he wants all his fellow seniors to graduate and not have half of them be stuck quarantined at home. And in the next breath, he said he hates his mask, right? And I do too. My daughter hates putting on her mask, but she does it, and so regardless of the vote, the decision, I would encourage all of us in this community, because this is our community, these are our kids. This is a very divided issue, whether it's kids in school, whether it's masks. Everything in regards to COVID. And as the adults in the community, I think it's hugely important that we try to alleviate and hedge the division that there is as the adults in the community, that we educate and care for our kids and try to make it less of a division. And so as a dad, I'm going to try to do that, and that's my hope, is that we would do that as a community, is as we talk to kids tonight and tomorrow morning and the days ahead, that we would focus on unity and being in community with one another, and not the opposition and the other half, that we hate them and they hate us. So please, as a community and as adults in this community and parents specifically, so let's focus on community and unity, and not the other side, the other half that disagree with us, and so we hate them for that. Sorry.
For my 2 cents, I have to say that my end goal is to keep kids safe and in school. That's my bottom line. As you've seen here tonight, it's obvious there's sharp divergence of opinion on this topic and everything else associated with COVID. Frankly, the thing I hate most about COVID is the impact it has on our community and creating even more divisiveness than what we've experienced to this point. And I hope that we can all work to try to heal that. I also would say, you know, it's clear that we need to try to create a plan for next year, the best we can, but no one knows what's going to happen with this, and we're going to have to create a plan that can be flexible enough to meet whatever circumstances come forward. Are we ready to vote, guys? Okay. The motion has been made and seconded. Do you need me to read it again? I will, as soon as I can find it here. All right, thank you. It was to reinstate PUSD's original policy on cloth face coverings, masks, in light of recent COVID spread and in conjunction with the recommendations of the CDC. I think given the weight of this particular decision, my preference would be that when I call for the vote, you raise your hands so it's absolutely clear who voted. So, all those in favor of the motion as it was presented, please raise your hand. All those opposed? The motion passes. Again, I wish to thank all of you for coming and sharing your opinions. They are all valued, and this is not an easy decision. Thank you. We're going to take a 5-minute break, so board members, you can.
It's a pretty cool agenda after that if you guys want to hang around. Good job, President.
sliver.
This is our job. Show and model how we work together. We're divided.
Thank you, Ben. You did
So, it's government at work, it's schools at work, and we're all trying to do what's best for kids, and it's a no-win for us. It's a no-win. We're not spreading cases.
That frustrates me. The crowd.
Absolutely, and we certainly have plans in place for that, and we'll tweak them. And there's a lot of situations we
I
have to have
thought
plans.
so.
Yeah, we have plans. That was
Just so small.
The plans are flexible based on what COVID does. So.
Yeah, that worked really well.
Kids back in and make things normal and not wear masks and do all that as soon as possible. And there may have been times where us, like other school districts throughout the year, we tried to rush that, and it blew up on us a couple times this year. So we're going to continue to try and rush it in the safest way possible. But man, the minute we can be normal, we're going to be normal. Sir, it was good to see you. Good to see you.
Yeah. I know, and I was kind of waiting for the buzzer when Jennifer was talking. And yet, she was providing medical information.
I think we got another bathroom over here.
Is that where you're going?
Yeah, I wish we could arrange for but the problem is, then you got open up all.
How are you?
I'm a lot better now.
Why do you want to get your comments about all the comments you heard tonight? How you feel about it?
I was very pleased with the way the citizens came and shared their thoughts. I mean, I was delighted with the number of people that came. I was delighted with their respectful sharing of their opinions. I appreciated hearing from everybody. This was not an easy decision. And each side is very passionate about what they feel. And I have to come down on the side of that, again, safety and keeping kids in school. So I did.
And it just seems like the goal is to get through this year.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. But we really do need to, much as it's impossible to predict what the virus will do, to really try to put together a flexible plan that the community, I think, can be more aware of the plan that we had for this year. I think people weren't quite focused on it then. It's been a wild year, but I think we can do a more thorough job of making the community aware of this.
Sarah,
the plan.
is MJ Smith sitting on Zoom?
You're welcome.
She is a presenter for the next item.
Bless her heart. She's been here for 3 hours.
I know.
Wow, she's.
Good. So long. Good.
I know.
No nap.
Oh, dear.
Grandson would not take a nap.
Clearly, we need to go back to school and learn to tell time. It's time to get started again, please.
Okay, all of you guys counting? I'm down
Oh.
to tea. This is my last drink.
Oh, no, oh, no.
Better be done before I run out.
That's a
Not
doozy.
even a Diet Coke.
You got one of those Diet Cokes? I need like 3 of those.
No, I drink more.
Right now? Oh, good.
There we
Good
go.
thing I was not on stage for a while.
All right. Okay.
You know what? Love you guys.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, we're all here.
We know.
So you are assuming that we say rotten things up here? We do not say rotten things up here.
All right, the next item on our agenda is taking a look at a couple of special events. It appears that you, Mr. Howard, are
Yes,
going to
ma'am.
tell us about this.
This may look familiar because last month you all approved something very similar, 2 events at Mile High Middle School where we waive our alcohol policy. This comes through us through the city, and this one particularly through our good friends at Prescott Downtown Partnership. And we have MJ, who's the director of PDP. She's been waiting for, I think, hours. Hey, good afternoon, good evening, MJ. Are you there? While we see if we can get her on Zoom, she can answer any questions that you have, particularly about those 2 events, the Rockabilly Festival and the Prescott Wine Festival. And again, remember, these are non-school days that we're waiving the alcohol policy so that our community can have events on our Prescott Mile High Middle School field. So
I also see that the expected payback to PUSD from these 2 events should be in the range of $4,500.
correct. Remember that we charge a bit of an extra fee for
there's
these alcohol events where we do have to go through this whole process and ask our board to waive and that whole type of thing. So,
Okay.
Any questions for MJ? And MJ, thank you so much for your patience and for joining us.
Does anyone have questions for MJ about these events?
Not a question, but just a statement of, out of curiosity, I looked at what day of the week those 2 were on, and they're both on Saturdays, just as a statement.
Okay. We do appreciate the Downtown Community Partnership giving us an opportunity to add to our coffers, so thank you.
Can I just make a motion?
Absolutely. Cara's tired.
Motion that we temporarily suspend the district's restriction against the presence and consumption of alcohol on district grounds, specifically for Mile High Middle School, football field, and track area for 2 special events as requested by the City of Prescott Recreational Services as presented.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Motion passes. Okay. Next item is a memorandum of understanding with AmeriCorps VISTA. And that's Marty. You want to tell us about it, Marty?
Yes, we got to experience a little of this with Monique, our AmeriCorps VISTA. So we are bringing to you an agreement to essentially get a 2-for-1. We would get another Farm to School VISTA, which has been Sarah Ravel, and she has agreed to come back next year if we would like her, and she will be here in June presenting her project. And then, as Monique mentioned, we did interview a candidate to replace her for a 3rd year of continuing to look at chronic absenteeism, and her name is Martha, coming to us from Kentucky. Normally, it's volunteer, so to speak, on their part, but the district does pay $10,000 per VISTA, which is a bargain for a full-time person helping us create a system. But in this case, we get a 2-for-1, so we get 2 for for 10,000 instead of 1 for 10,000. So I highly recommend these two vistas really help us implement amazing programs. Did I misspeak, Annie?
No, I was cheering.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Annie.
All right, thank you. Can I get a motion on this?
I'll make a motion that we approve a memorandum of understanding and amendment to memorandum of understanding for the placement of 2 AmeriCorps VISTA members as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded that we consider approving a memorandum of understanding and amendment to memorandum of understanding for the placement of 2 AmeriCorps VISTA members as presented. Those in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
4 to 1. Okay, motion passes. All right. Next item on our agenda is a contract with food service, I think. Brian?
Yes, 5 years ago, we did a request for proposal for our food service, and it was awarded to Southwest Excellent Foods. This year, we would have had to go to another 5-year bid, but the problem is, with uncertainty of what next year looks like, we would have to have, for that RFP, we'd have to have a scope of work that is uncertain. We have a relationship with Southwest Food Excellence, Southwest Foods, and so they are allowing for us, anyone who is in their 5th year, to extend it 1 more year and have a 6th year. And then next year, we would write up the scope of work and go through that request for proposal in which all companies could bid, and we'd go through that process. Once again, the scope of work would be difficult, not knowing if we're in, how many students, and so this is just a vote to say, yes, we'll go 1 more year, and we'll do the bidding process next year.
Any questions for Brian?
Have there been any concerns with the food service, with this food service company?
I'll speak to that. We've worked with them for a long time now. I'm guessing near a decade now. And how many? 15.
Okay.
And what I would say is that during COVID, these folks stepped up and were one of the highlights of anything that we did. They served food here, there, anywhere to thousands and thousands of people. And when we were running around trying to figure stuff out, they were there saying, how can we help? What can we do to help? Here's what we can do to help. Here's some ideas that we have. And so that relationship has been strong for 15 years.
Great.
And never stronger than this year, in my opinion.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Anyone like to make a motion?
I move that we renew the award for outsourced food service goes to Southwest Food Service Excellence for next year.
Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve an RFP number 162321 for Southwest Food Service Excellence as the district's food service management company for the 2021-2022 school year as presented. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Next item on adopting a policy services advisory about graduation that was passed by the legislature. So are there any questions? Marty, do you have comments on this?
I would only say that typically we do a first and a second read, but this is considered an emergency policy because they would like it passed before graduation, so it has to do with graduation. And our high school has allowed this for a few years already, so this is nothing new for us.
Okay.
Can you give the summary of it?
Oh, yes, the summary is that a student who is a member of a federally recognized tribe or eligible to be can wear tribal regalia as part of their graduation outfit, and that can include eagle feathers or eagle feathers or eagle something else. Plume.
Okay. Could I get a motion?
I'll make a motion to adopt Policy Services Advisory Volume 33, Number 2, from April 2021 regarding Policy Advisory Number 679 as presented.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Motion passes. The next is the staffing needs. And let me clarify, Brian, that these positions already exist within the system? Oh, Clark, sorry. You're on, it's on the next page with your name, Clark.
Yeah, why don't you come to this, one? Yeah, as he's coming up, definitely, Deb, these are positions that are already existing.
Yeah, I thought so.
But have been recommended by principals or directors to expand them for certain, different reasons.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
Clark.
absolutely right. There's nothing brand new here, but as we looked at staffing needs in March, the good news is we nailed it about 98%, what we thought we were going to need. The bad news is COVID. That's the bad news about everything. And so we're taking a look more closely at some of these and determining there's some need areas that we didn't fulfill with our initial staffing allocation and requests that we came to you with. So a couple of different things. I can speak to any of these individually if you'd like to be here later, or just totally up to you.
Are there any questions for Clark on item 7?
Is this 2 full positions?
Yeah, great question. So no full positions at all except for item E, which is the health and safety coordinator. The hope was we were going to need that for 1 year. Am I on the correct item here, number 7? Okay. The hope was that we would need that for 1 year and COVID would go away. COVID has not gone away. You may have picked that up over the last couple of hours. And so we really feel that there's a need to continue with someone to continue to interface with healthcare experts and provide us good advice and help us make good decisions. And so there's a proposal for that full-time position to continue next year, but the others are simply supplements of existing positions.
And I'm not sure if this goes to Clark or to Brian, but we can use COVID money to pay for that position, correct?
For that position, yes.
Yes.
All right, thank you. Did you have something else, Cara?
Cara, did you have another question? I'm sorry.
What, Lincoln, 0.5, a half an hour a day?
Exactly, yeah. So again, a supplement to a current position. They feel that if they were able to get 30 more minutes on that position, we have a number of parapro positions that aren't full-time. This is one of many that are in that situation. And Mrs. Hughes came to us and said, listen, if we could make this work, I think the total cost for the entire year is, what was it, Brian? $1,700 something dollars. Super minimal, but it would help to support our kids better and make that school run more efficiently. So we felt that that was something we'd like to bring to you.
Thank you.
You bet.
Anybody like to make a motion?
I'll move that we consider approving the listed staffing needs adjustments as presented.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded that we approve the listed staffing needs and adjustments as presented. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Make sure I'm on the right page here. Number 8, this is a request for a half-time social emotional director, half-time social emotional counselor position. Clark.
Again, I'll try to be brief and then just answer any questions that you've got. You might know that I serve on a committee called the Milestones Committee in the county that's made up of county sheriff, police chiefs, mental health experts, juvenile justice leaders, and some school leaders as well. And as I've done that for the last 3 years, I will tell you PUSD is the envy of Yavapai County and the state really in many ways in terms of the support that the resources that we put into support for our students' social, emotional, and mental health. That need continues to grow, as you know, and we want to stay ahead of that instead of playing catch up. As that need has expanded, our social, emotional, mental health counselors have come to us and said, we are maxed out. We are not able to meet all the needs that we need to in schools. If we could get another half-time position, that would really help us to support kids' needs. As we do that, and as we look at allocating resources effectively within schools, there's also a need for some leadership specifically in that area. So the thought is put a half-time counselor position together with a half-time director position, and I think the next agenda item you'll be looking at is the pay scale for that. But that's the crux of it, is there's more need to support kids' social, emotional, mental health, and this is how we propose to go about it.
And would this for the next 17 days, or for next year?
No, this is, great question. This is for next year.
Is it one person serving 2 roles?
Correct. That's
Okay.
right. That's the idea. Yeah. This was kind of spoken to in the previous agenda item, but trying to hire anybody at a school, you got to find the right kind of person. Trying to hire somebody half-time at a school and saying you're going to get half of very little and no benefits is a real tough draw. So that was some of the piece with the additions that we just looked at, and that's a part of this bigger picture here, is let's put those 2 half-time positions together for 1 full-time position. One person would take that role.
So this would affect our proposed budget for next year?
Would this come out of M&O?
We have we could use ESSER money if we chose, but this being a board voted, it would inherently come out of M&O.
You want to say that again?
Yeah, I didn't get any of that.
I didn't catch most of it.
It would come out of M&O.
Come out of our what?
Our maintenance and operation budget.
A regular budget. Okay.
Yeah, ESSER funds being one-time funds, I think, is the idea.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you, Brian. All right. Any other questions for Clark on this? Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve the .5 social emotional director / .5 social emotional counselor position as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded that we approve a half-time social emotional director, half-time social emotional counselor position as presented. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
Motion passes. Number 9, the fiscal year 2022 proposed placement schedule. This was in your board packet explaining. You want to cover this shortly, Joe?
Yeah, it's actually sometimes we'll just roll that in. It's the item you just voted on. It's the salary schedule for that. The reason we separated it out is because we tried to avoid confusion, so I'll try to make this not confusing. This person will be paid on 2 different salary schedules. The .5 for the director, we did not have a director salary schedule. That's the new position of it. So it's a full-time director salary schedule. Obviously, when we hire this person, they'll get half of that. But that makes it cleaner in the future if the board or the district, we decide to expand that, or we have a need to expand that in the future. So it's just the cleanest kind of HR way to do that. So when we do place this person, they'll be on 2 different salary schedules, and this is the new one reflecting a director's pay.
Any other questions?
So you're saying right at the moment, we don't have a social emotional director?
No, we don't. That's what
This is
just
a new
passed.
position that we just approved. Is there a motion?
Move that we consider approving the fiscal year 2022 proposed placement schedule as presented.
I'll second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded that we approve the fiscal year 2022 proposed placement schedule as presented. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Number 10, consider approving the position of Administrative Assistant Level 4 to grants as presented. Marty?
This would be a position that would support the 5 COVID-related grants. What?
Can you pull your mask down?
Oh, sure.
We have a hard time understanding over here.
We can't hear you guys too well.
Okay. I think it's, the mic is echoing.
Yeah.
So this would be a position that would support the 5 COVID-related grants that we have received or are applying for. As you probably know, all grants require a lot of tracking, time and effort logs. You know, we get audited on grants, so they want to see that we're spending the money on what we're supposed to spend it on. Many districts are hiring a coordinator to manage these grants. Our grants director believes that if we could just hire an administrative assistant who would be paid from these grants to help with all of the paperwork that's required in order to get a grant. So that's what this would be, as an admin assistant to support those 5 grants.
So the expectation would be that this person would more than pay for their own position?
Yes, we are required to do this paperwork and prepare for audits and the time and effort and budget tracking and showing that we're spending the money on what we're supposed to, you know, spend it on. If we don't have the capacity to do that, we can't apply for these grants. We have to do what's required in the grants. And this position would be paid from those grants.
Yeah.
How long is the duration of this position?
That's a good question. It would be only for the duration of the grants.
Would there be, do you foresee potentially more grants coming in that this person could possibly help apply for and gain to continue that position further?
As we get any grants, we have to look at our capacity to maintain and meet the requirements of the grants.
Right.
So we're always applying for more and more grants. So there is a possibility, and we don't know what's coming down the line for COVID support.
Right.
But absolutely, as we expand our grants programs, you know, there could be a need for this person to stay on.
But these could be other grants as well. They're not just limited to COVID-related grants. Right. They could apply for other ones
in the
also.
future?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
My philosophy with the grants directors we've always had, I've always said, we'd like for you to outgrow this room that you're in and take over the building if possible. That's a sign of a healthy grants department.
Yep.
All right, any other questions on this one? Can I get a motion, please?
Yeah, I'll make a motion that we approve the position of Administrative Assistant Level 4 to grants as presented.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the position of Administrative Assistant Level 4 to grants as presented. All those in favor say aye. 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 Opposed? Motion passes. Okay, we're down to the information and discussion items. Mr. Moore, School Board Summary Budget Report.
As presented.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, guys, I'm going to suggest that on number 2, where it says update and discussion on the most recent COVID information, I think we've had that tonight. And while I do think we need to do a COVID funding report, I think we'd be best off to hold it.
I could also, if the board wishes, I could do a summary of the 4 and pass that information? No?
I vote we hold it.
Yeah, I think we're going to have a lot of discussion about these ESSER monies and these COVID monies coming in, and we're going to want some board input too on how we do that. We're also, there's a lot to be learned right now across the state and country in terms of how that works. It's going to be an influx of one-time money. And so we're going to have to be very thoughtful and strategic about how we do that without pigeonholing ourselves into using it for things like salaries and M&O and things that we have to sustain if that money doesn't keep going. We've got some great ideas for that. We're getting excellent guidance from Arizona Department of Education, but there are still some pieces to it where we're not even allowed to share the amount of money that we've gotten yet because it's not solidified yet. So I think that's something that we should be talking about probably as an item in the next maybe 4 or 5 months worth of board meetings and updating you.
Okay.
And then probably bringing a budget plan of how we've figured out how to leverage that money to do some new things that we haven't been able to do due to COVID. So.
We all okay with that?
Do we need to table that, or it's not a?
No,
It's a discussion item. We discussed it.
Okay.
Okay. The next one, I hated to put on this agenda, but it has to be done before the end of this month. And so the ASBA every year asks boards to send them their priorities for the legislative issues for the following year. I don't know if you noticed the list of this year's in your board packet, but to give us a place to start the discussion or end the discussion, I marked 2 things that I personally could recommend that we suggest that are all, well,
It's in the full packet.
it's in the full packet.
Page numbers.
Yeah, it's 144 and 45.
144.
Yeah, it's clear at the end. Okay. The 2 that I personally would offer to you as a recommendation, as things we might suggest, are things that were on this year's. And one is revise the school finance formula to provide a staple, dedicated revenue source, less reliant on the general fund or annual legislative appropriation. That's been my thing for a long time. And the other one is to hold school districts harmless for significant enrollment losses for 2021.
What would that mean exactly?
It means that if we lose enrollment, we don't lose our per pupil payments for those kids for that 1 year.
Okay.
So anyway, those are just some suggestions. We don't have to pick anything that was already on there. We can, I was on this committee last year and there were some really bizarre things that were suggested. So if you have ideas, I'm glad to send them in, but.
So these would be areas that ASBA would be lobbying
Yes.
the legislature, the state legislature
Right.
on? Okay.
These are things we would like the ASBA to represent us
Okay.
at the legislature.
Is it helps I put it up on the screen?
You could do that. That'd be nice. Thank you, Sarah.
There and there.
They're, I don't think they can be read.
They're hard to read. Yeah.
And so, any thoughts? Okay, what I'm going to leave.
Didn't read it yet. So
No. What I'm going to, I can't bring them back to the next meeting because by then it'll be too late for us to submit them. So what I will leave you with is, this is what I'll send in unless I hear from you otherwise. And feel free to send me ideas and I'll send them in. And I can send in more than 2, I think. I think. So, is that okay with you guys? Yes. I don't want to keep us here all night to read through it. I know you all want to stay, but. Okay. Last item is future agenda items. I have already put on here a discussion on determining COVID-related policies for next fall.
My thought on that is to maybe look at engaging with some of our stakeholders in the community. To
definitely
let them feel they have an
Yes.
input on that.
I would agree.
I don't know what that would look like. I'm thinking committee,
Yeah.
but that's just the
But-
thought that pops into my head.
But we can't really discuss that tonight.
Right.
So,
So that was
Yeah.
my future agenda.
yeah,
item.
That's a future,
Can we make it closer to the beginning of the school year, as opposed to next month?
I don't know. We'll have to
Okay.
look at when those decisions need to be made. You know, I don't know.
If there's going to be a committee, we're going to need to be
Yeah,
ahead
we're
of
going to
that.
want to get them together. The other thing I put down as a possible future agenda items was a discussion/report on the whole absenteeism issue. I think we ought to take a look at that.
I'll add another possible
Yeah.
agenda item is a presentation potentially from all the school nurses, like collectively, that they would share. Now, you know, because
Yeah, that'd be-
now the next few meetings would be post this school
Yep.
year, right? So that the nurses come and share what this school year was like for them.
That's a great idea, John.
Yeah. They were key players.
Yeah.
They had a whole different life this year.
And Thursday is Nurses Day.
Aha. That's great. All right, unless someone objects, we're adjourned. I do have to tell you guys, I didn't think we'd be out this early. So.
It was very well, I mean, just the.